This is Covey Christ, and you're checking out my interview with New Scott on newscott.com.
All right, I'm back here with another New Scott interview, and today I'm here with former Maritime wrestling champion Covey Christ. How you doing today, Covey?
Not a complaint, New Scott.
Now, were you a fan of professional wrestling growing up?
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Watched it since I was a kid. All my older cousins are big wrestling fans too, so they all watched it. I thought they were cool. I looked up to them, so anything they did, I was going to emulate. And so I can remember being like three and a half, and watching my older cousins watching wrestling, and just sitting watching them be in awe of people. And so if they were in awe of them, I was probably going to be in awe of them, and that's my earliest memories of how I got into it. Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 33. I'll be 33 in a month. Yeah.
Okay, so you're a few years younger than me.
Yeah.
Who were your favorite people to watch when you first started watching wrestling?
Shawn Michaels was a big one that stuck out for me. I had his red gloves. I was obsessed with Michaels. I wanted to look like him. I wanted to dress like him. I wanted to act like him. Macho Man, I was a big fan of. Bret Hart, Roddy Piper. I was watching a lot. Razor Ramon. I nerded out for the accent.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I was a little kid and I was like, that guy's. There's something weird about him that was just it was different. Sid Vicious. I was a big fan of Sid Vicious when I was a kid for no reason. Just his intensity on camera.
His promos were amazing.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite part of watching that as a kid was watching people address the camera properly. Was in-ring work was less of a
It's fine.
less of a thing to me. But at that point in time, it was all promos. But I couldn't stand some guy, like I couldn't stand Ultimate Warrior, even though his promos were intense. I couldn't get into him. But perhaps I was a little late for that whole like momentum train.
Yeah, so what year did you start watching, like actually?
89, 90-ish,
okay.
Yeah.
So you would have been just the end of the Rockers type thing? The Shawn Michaels you watched was
the turn
like...
was one of my like concrete memories of becoming a fan.
Okay.
Was watching Shawn Michaels turn on Marty Jannetty and sitting there and going, that's cool, I want that of my life. I don't know what part of that made me excited about that being a part of my life, but the shock, the awe, the reaction, seeing my family lose their mind, like that was cool. Yeah.
So your parents watched and stuff?
No, just my family. Yeah, like my older cousins.
Cousins, okay, yeah.
So like Dan, Johnny, my cousin Derek, he brought me... so I can remember being like 3 and sitting in my living room watching wrestling, and my cousin Derek showed up at my house with the old 80s wrestling ring and all the wrestlers that he owned. The
big one,
solid state.
Oh, okay.
The big solid state.
Yeah, the LJN ones.
LJN ones.
Yeah.
And I had the big ring that had the big cross beams underneath it, so it was solid as a rock.
I broke it.
Absolutely. Broke the posts off. Yeah. Ropes were tied back together. Yeah. Guys had melted faces. Like, it was ridiculous.
King Kong Bundy was like 3 pounds of solid rubber.
Man, you could kill a man, King Kong Bundy. But I remember him dropping them off to me, and me thinking that was like the coolest present I'd ever gotten at that point. Yeah, so I as early as I can remember, it was I had to be a wrestler or a hockey player. Like those were my 2 goals in life. I love being a goalie, and I love watching guys get the shit kicked out of them in a ring. So, yeah.
Did you play hockey?
Yeah, 18 years. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's fun. You played in Cape Breton though.
Yep. Yeah. That's where I lost a tooth.
Yeah. How'd you lose the tooth?
My mask came off in a scrum, and a guy kept whacking away at the puck.
Nice.
And I never take myself out of a play, so this was his stick snapping my tooth, and it came out through here. I also have this scar, which never grows back, which was same thing. I took a shot with another stick off my face, and this was a hunk of skin kind of hanging off, and I was 14. And then it's been filled in twice since, but kept getting knocked out, so I I just decided it was too expensive to keep filling it in when I'm a saucy bugger who gets punched in the mouth a lot.
Yeah, wait till you're done wrestling before you get it fixed. There's no point.
Exactly.
The second you get it fixed, it'll get chipped again.
100%. I got told to buy a mouth guard if I ever got it fixed again.
Yeah.
But I talk too much in the ring to wear a mouth guard.
Right. You wouldn't be able to scream anymore.
Oh, you just... You hear the dumbest sound ever coming out of a human.
And what was it about professional wrestling that, while you were watching it, you thought, I could do this?
Promos.
Yeah?
That was the first thing, yeah. I loved people's intensity. I loved how they spoke. I loved that people got drawn in. I loved that in an average day-to-day life, like, no one drew anyone's attention. Like, people were bored of each other in a heartbeat. Yet I could watch a 10-minute promo from Roddy Piper where everyone in a room shut up and stared at the TV. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Don Cherry was the other person that I thought was just mega powerful when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because everyone just shut up and stared.
I still do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's religion.
Yeah.
And, like, even if I want to throw shit at the TV and be like, you're the dumbest person!
Yeah.
I still think he's one of the smartest minds in all of hockey. So I love listening to him. And I shut up and listen to it. Promos are just power. Like, it's such an engaging power. Yeah.
Now, you're not... When I was a kid, at no point in time did I look at the television and be like, I can do what they're doing. Those guys were enormous when I was watching growing up in the 80s.
Yeah.
What was it about... I mean, you're not a big guy.
No, not at all.
So what was it about that aspect of it that thought you could do that?
I have no idea. I have no part of me. I remember watching hockey, and guys like Theron Fleury were the guys that I looked at, and I was like, there might be hope for me. There might be hope for me. I watched Curtis Joseph, who was 165 pounds, and I was like, there might be hope for me. Martin Brodeur drafted at like 155 pounds with a grubby stash, and I was like, there might be hope for me. But in wrestling, there was nothing. It wasn't until I was like 15 maybe before I saw my first comparables that I was actually I truly thought that there was money to be made for me. Prior to that, it was just I'm going to be an idiot and do that whether I'm that size or not. That is just a thing that I will find my way to do. Then once I was 14, I was on Kazaa or LimeWire.
Oh man, I forgot about Kazaa, but I never remember LimeWire. Yeah.
I had just bought a PWI 500 from Sobeys that I saw. It was my first 500.
What year?
That would have been, I was 14, so that would have been 2000.
Okay.
I just started watching NWA TNA, Ring of Honor, like the hyper indies were starting to come out at that point. I bought a 500. Looked through all the names and saw some interesting names. Looked them up on Kazaa or LimeWire, and that's where I fell in love with Loki. That was my first guy I can remember. There was Loki, Bryan Danielson, and Christopher Daniels were the three that I looked at and was like, I will be you. You are guys that I can emulate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were off of 3 years prior to that. In like 97, I saw a Tajiri vs. Super Crazy match.
Yeah.
I saw Tajiri, Super Crazy, Little Guido, and they were all people that I was like, I could be you. There's ways that I could find myself into those roles. And it was never in my mind I had to be 200 pounds, which I'm a $180 now, and being in a world of guys who are all bigger than me, it's always very strange that
That's not really necessarily true anymore. There's a couple bigger than you, but there's a lot of guys back when I was watching it, there was nobody your size or my size or like anything like that. That's why I didn't look at it. But nowadays, I mean, look at locally, like Brody Steele, there was Kurgan, I mean, they're giants.
Yeah.
But nowadays, they're all your size, like 95% of them.
The guys that I look at as who I want to face is what I guess I'm referring to.
Right.
The Ethan Pages, the Josh Alexanders, the Marcus Burks, the Marco Estradas, they're all large men. To be on that plateau as an indie worker still has that size stigma.
Yeah.
To get there, you have to either be an aerialist or a body man. And I love Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah.
I love the fact that guys like him can exist in the world. Marty Skrull's, he's a $180. He's not huge. He's
Nope.
not built like a brick shit house. He just works intelligently.
Yeah.
And I like that there's still guys that I could look at. Hell, even Bryan Danielson. He's top of the game in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't think he weighs more than $180 right now.
I stood next to him. He's not as tall. I'm 5'11". He's not as tall as I am
Nope.
either. I stood next to him, and AJ Styles is probably one of, if not the best wrestler of his generation.
Yeah.
I stood next to him too, and he's not bigger. I'm not that big. This is my point, right?
Yeah. And that makes me excited that there's still those.
Yeah.
Because I've been in the ring the past 2 days. I'll be in again tonight. I obsessively hone my craft. That's the thing that I desire to do, is to be not just good, not just be, like I say to the guys all the time, I don't just want to be remembered. I want to be a legend. Like there's a reason that I wanted to work with IHW this year. There's, like you mentioned, Brody Steele, Mike Hughes, Titus. Those are all guys that I've yet to get a chance to be in a ring with and get to face. They're all guys that if I don't get a chance to face them, I'm not a legend ever in the Maritimes. That's untouchable at that point in time. So to me, that is the only place to go to, at this point in time for me, attain the goals that I need.
You're from Cape Breton.
Yes, sir.
How did you discover independent wrestling?
I was 13 and I went to see a show called Island Wrestling Alliance, IWA, run by a guy named Joe Costello.
I have a documentary on that.
Woo! So I went to that show. I was 13, and Joe told us to come to the library to do weekly meetings.
That's where the documentary was shot, at that library.
McConnell Library. So we went to the McConnell Library, and we sat in every Saturday, and we did meetings where he would talk about how we were going to create wrestling here and how it was going to be great and how we were going to, motivate each other. And I still have somewhere in one of my bins the waiver he tried to get us to sign as I was just becoming 14, and it said, if you suffer egregious injury, death, or anything, we can't be held responsible, all this kind of stuff, and it's just like typed out, spelling mistakes.
Right.
I just kept it because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I never signed it. They folded. Maritime Wrestling Alliance came up 2 months later, and that was run by a guy named Shane King.
Halifax Hitman.
Halifax Hitman. You guys suck, eh? And Shane King had the weirdest roster of people that I had ever witnessed. I was 14 at that point, and I was going there with my best friend Brent, and we heckled them so hard. Like we were smarks before we knew what smarks were. We just sat in the front row and made fun of people's haircuts, their body type, how bad their move sets were. We counted the amount of clotheslines and suplexes on a show out loud to them. We were like, 31 clotheslines! Because they just kept whipping and clotheslining and whipping and clotheslining because they'd get lost and they had no idea. Anyway, so to get us out of the crowd, they said that they would train us. And so I was 14, going to my first training classes with the Dice as our trainer. And so it was the Dice and a guy named Carnage that were my first trainers. And I trained with them for 3 months before my first match, which was April 20th, 2001, in front of 58 people at St. Albans Hall.
Right.
And that was me against Brent. Was the fourth match on the show. I was underneath the ring for the first 3 matches, sitting on a Nintendo, waiting for my cool entrance where I'd come out from under the ring.
With the Nintendo?
No, I was just sitting on it so I didn't get dirty. I was called Blackout, and I wore all black with like fishnets, and like I was a skinny little knacker of a kid. I looked fucking weird as hell. And he was Phoenix, and we just did a lucha match. It was like head scissors and ranas, and his finisher was this really cool move called a frogton bomb, where he does a frog splash into a swanton. It was really good. We got a 10-minute time limit draw. It was the most boring, shitty thing that's ever existed. But yeah, that was 2001 that I broke in then, and then 3 years later left to go get actually trained at a real school.
How did you find that first show though? Like, was it through friends? Like, or was it posters up somewhere? How did you discover that show was happening? I'm always curious how some people discover
word of mouth at a school.
Okay.
I think it was somebody's brother was a musician in a band, and I went to like a couple of live little band shows at the school sometimes,
Yeah.
and he said that his brother was like a loser who was doing a wrestling show, and they were all making fun of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, a bunch of losers wrestling. Where's that happening? And then me and my friend were like, well, we're losers. That's our thing. And so the first time that I could just remember walking in and like expecting wrestling, and it was just dudes in fucking running shoes and jean shorts going through tables, and I was like, this is Justice versus Snake versus Jaw Master, and you're like, what is happening here?
Was Purity Saint on those shows? She was she was eventually, but was she on those ones too?
No, she was a valet at that point.
Right.
And then she became a wrestler around the same time that me and Brett did. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's around the same time we met Matt the Man Dalton, who was trained with the Mat Rat program in Calgary.
Right.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff had something to do with that.
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Teddy Hart, I think, was on those too.
Teddy Hart,
Yeah.
Jack Evans, Harry Bullock Smith.
They had the things on the posts where you could stand,
Pizza
right?
Vans.
Yeah.
Mauro Ranallo was the announcer.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did know that.
It was his first announcing
Totally
gig
forgot
ever,
about that.
live
Yeah.
announcing.
I always think of him as starting with ECCW, but it was Mat Rats. That's crazy.
Mat Rats 2001, I think it was. Mat Rats 2001.
Yeah.
Just before the closing of
right
WCW.
around there, yeah.
Yeah, they put a bunch of money expecting a bunch of, imagine 3 more years if you had Jack Evans, Teddy Hart, Harry Bulldog Smith, Natalia, all those people coming into WCW at the same time. Would have been
different, yeah.
crazy.
Things would have been different for sure.
Yeah.
Did you realize at that time how dangerous what you were doing was, being not like you said training, but we're going to use that term really loosely.
Loose as hell.
Because the guys training you weren't trained yet at that point. Dice originally did, or eventually did get trained by Brody Steele, Mike Hughes, Duke McIsaac.
Yep.
But at that point, he wasn't. So did you have any idea how dangerous it was, what you were doing?
No. I knew the moves were dangerous, as in everything sucked at hers. But
were you, knowing now, were you doing it anywhere correctly? Were you bumping right, anything at all? No,
nothing was proper trained.
Yeah.
Nothing. When I got to Scott D'Amore in Windsor, I can remember my first bump. So I walked into Scott's school as a 120-pound 18-year-old kid on a Sunday afternoon, and I walked in and Scott goes, all right kid, get in the ring and take a bump. And I walked in and I took a bump, and he goes, so you're backyarded. And I went, what? And he went, so you've wrestled? And I went, yeah, I wrestled for a couple of years in Cape Breton. And he went, yeah. All right, so take 200 bumps. And I just started bumping, and it turned into, I think it was, the eventual number was something like 400 or 500 bumps he asked me to do. I don't remember. It was something like 180 or something, 200 that I got through before I bawled my eyes out and couldn't move. And I remember him saying, so why'd you do all those bumps? And I said, because you told me to. And he goes, no, you did them because you're a backyarder and you don't understand the value of a bump. And that's when wrestling training started for me, was me actually being slapped in the face and understanding that hurting my body wasn't the point of the sport.
Now, we discovered something recently on the very first, what was the original Team New Scott road trip to Cape Breton in November. It was Remembrance Day 2001.
Yes.
So November 11th, 2001. Me, Scott, Steen drove to Cape Breton for an amazing NWA show at the Ukraine Hall. Is that what it was called?
Ukrainian Hall,
Ukrainian Hall. And you were in the crowd.
It was.
What are your memories of that? Was your last night as
I was wrestling at that point.
Yeah.
And I was having plant shows still for them in the crowd. So I was a worker under blackout. I wore a mask, and I was still a crowd member for some of their shows.
Yeah.
So
What's a crowd member?
There's maybe 25 people who would show up to their shows.
Yeah. Oh, we were told we weren't allowed to sit because it was sold out.
Standing room only,
That's right.
brother. 300 chairs, 30 people in the crowd.
And Scott wouldn't let us sit, even though nobody showed up.
I love that on the crowd. Somebody sits down, you gotta stand up. Yeah, my memories of those shows is, again, we were smarks, and then at that point we had to not be as loud and obnoxious in the crowd. We had to try to cheer. And if you watch, it's just me sitting going, as a man to my right is being as loud and obnoxious and smarky as possible. And I'm like, oh, I want to join in on the fun. Like, I want to poke fun at Bill Justice as well. He looks terrible. Who's Willow? Where's Willow from? Why is he pretending to be Asian?
He had a half thumb sleeper or something.
It's amazing. I lost it. Him versus Joe Costello's brother, Steve Costello. I forget his name at that point in time, but yeah, that whole show was just brilliant.
It's so funny.
I'm so glad you sent it to me because I have just a weird, quirky joy for watching bad wrestling.
Yeah.
And like hours of it.
Yeah.
And that's endless joy.
Is that why that has 100,000 views on a private link?
Maybe put it on Reddit.
Yeah. Did you ever go to like Grand Prix wrestling or real action wrestling when it came to town in your area? Because they came to Cape Breton.
Yeah, I did. I worked.
We had a meeting with real action wrestling at some point in time.
Yeah, I did a little.
How'd that go?
A little pre-show match for real action wrestling once. Yeah, and that was when I was 16 or 17 with Brent. Yeah, and that was fine. I got told that I was skinny and that I had no idea what I was doing and that I needed to go to a proper school, which was all the best advice that anybody could have given me at that point. And,
who was talking to you at that point?
Gary Williams and Sarah Stock were the two people that we sat and talked with. Yeah. Chichi Cruz was really nice as well. We would have talked to him on one of the shows 2 months prior to that or something. He was
so this would have been 2002 because that's when Sarah came out here for the first time.
Yes, he was wrestling Evil Eddie Watts on a show.
Yeah.
And I just remember Chichi Cruz. And I was like, that's the coolest dude ever.
It worked with his music, Antichrist Superstar?
Yes.
Perfect.
It was, marked out.
Yeah.
Again, watching people be full of themselves and like not just walking out afraid of a crowd made me very excited. But yeah, Sarah Stock was the first person who mentioned the name Scott D'Amore to me ever. I don't know where it came from or why.
Yeah, because she was trained by Phil Lafone.
Yeah, I don't know who would have dropped that name into her or where she had went or where she had heard of him. But we had watched TNA for would have been a year and a half at that point, every Wednesday, going to my friend Crystal's house, Crystal Uden, Purity Saint. Yeah. We would go to her place, and I'd get a bag of Smart Pop popcorn and a Charleston Chew, and sit there and watch TNA every Wednesday. Thank God to her mom for being such a sweetheart and putting up with us. But yeah, I had heard Scott through her. I had emailed Scott beginning of grade 12, so that would have been 2004 was the first time I emailed Scott and was just like, skinny knacker kid here, heard your name, can I come up? And he was like, money. Like, that makes sense.
Was it Border City Wrestling at that point?
Yep. Yeah, it's been Border City for 20 years now.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
So you contacted Scott D'Amore, and you decided to pack things up and move to Ontario from Cape Breton.
100%, yeah.
What made you do that?
Best school, best trainees, people that I emulated and wanted to work with. So like Alex Shelley was my addiction at that point.
Motor City Machine Guns?
No, pre-Motor City. It was him and Chris Sabin were having a series of matches that I was losing my mind for. Yeah. Anyone that I seen Alex in a ring with, I marked out for because his moves looked very crisp and different, and his start-stop movement was very different than anyone else. Again, guy whose body I could emulate and who did a style that was very similar to what I was doing, nothing crazy flippy because I just am not that athletic. I'm not doing shooting stars ever. And so I became a big fan of his. I heard that Scott was an incredible trainer. And so yeah, I packed up all my stuff in a hockey bag, my goalie gear bag. I threw all my clothes in it, and me and Cat Power drove down to Halifax, got on a Via Rail, took a Via Rail.
I didn't realize you trained with Cat?
Nope, we didn't train together.
Okay.
We moved out together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I started training shortly before her.
Okay.
Would have left Windsor to go back to Nova Scotia, and then she would have started training. And then I came back to Windsor about a year and a half later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people ask questions about like most successful females from the Maritimes, and everyone overlooks her because she wrestled here like once or twice. Like she wrestled here in, I can't remember what year it was, but she wrestled against Tracy Brooks for
2006 or something.
No, it was later than that.
She was trained. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it was like 2010, 11,
okay,
somewhere around there. But she, I mean, she was a big deal. Like she went to Japan, she went like down in the States all the time. Everyone always overlooks her for some reason, and I don't. It's because she hasn't wrestled locally hardly at all.
Yeah, I think it's because she just wasn't around.
Yeah,
but she's a Cape Bretoner.
She's
about
know.
As Cape Breton as a human being gets. Yeah. She's tough as nails. Big kid.
Yeah.
Like I said, when we moved out, she was a rugby player.
Yeah.
She just destroyed a girl's hip, like left her crippled for the rest of her life, couldn't walk properly. Leanne's all fucked up because of that. But yeah, Kat's a powerhouse. She's a good kid. Just not somebody who's to be fucked around with, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you walked into Scott D'Amour's school. What's the first thing that you noticed?
The height of the ring was the first thing I noticed. It was a WCW TV ring. And so I walked up to it and thought it was the most dramatic difference I had ever seen. It was most yay high.
Yeah.
It was hard as rock. It didn't move. It didn't budge. That was terrifying.
They had cable ropes too, right?
Yeah.
They were 18s?
No, rope.
Rope rope?
Yeah, like big, thick rope.
Okay.
It's the most wonderful thing I've ever hit in my goddamn life. I love ropes.
That's what WWE still uses.
Yeah, it was a 20-foot ring.
Yeah. They had a bigger one because they used a smaller one on.
Yeah, like, they're more modern. They've got a really nice ring now.
Yeah.
But their old WCW TV ring was a big show ring.
Nice.
So it was a 20 by 20 brick.
Yeah.
It was like landing on Mike Hughes' ring. Like you got bumped on that thing, and you went, yeah, that's a ring. That's not a trampoline. That was a bump that I'll feel tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that was how he wanted you to train. He didn't want you to think high spots. He wanted you to think wrestle. Like, this is a story to be told. And it's crazy how many guys came out of his school that are just high spot experts.
Yeah.
But there's so much fundamentals to every one of those guys.
Right.
Because mat work is 80% of what we do. We hung out on the apron, and you wait to be tagged in, and you go through chain, and you do work and work and work and work, and it's like, I think I was trapped in a ring for like an hour and a half at one point. Everybody tagged out and in and just worked me for an hour and a half, so you're dead sweat, and yeah, that's fun.
Was there something about the training that you found harder than anything else? And was there something you found easier than anything else?
Up and overs took me like 4 months. I was like the skinniest kid that's ever existed. I had no strength. I'm not athletic by nature. I had to fight so hard to do anything that I do. So like, I'm at the ring with people now, and a lot of guys, I get things first time, but it's because I've been in a ring since I was 14. So it's 18 years of my life. I think I've only spent 6 of those 18 away from a ring. So a lot of things are natural to me because I practiced it 10,000 times and failed 9,999 of those times. So at this point, I kind of know how to do some of those things. But yeah, everything was difficult. Chain was easy. I love chain. I did Greco-Roman. I did jiu-jitsu a little bit. So like, holding humans, grappling, grabbing holds, manipulating bodies makes sense. Lifting a human didn't make a lot of sense at first. And having myself lifted was the weirdest in how to distribute your body weight properly so somebody didn't die lifting you. So that was a lot of fun. It was I got the shit kicked out of me a little bit for that. CK3 beat the crap out of me. Johnny Bravo beat the crap out of me. They were really nice to me. Gutter beat the crap out of me, all because I was saucy and unathletic.
What year was this?
That would have been when I first got in, 2004.
Okay.
September 2004, I moved down. I graduated, spent the summer in Cape Breton, got on a train September 4th, arrived September 6th, got a job at the bargain shop and Ford Auto Plant, and was working post-production. Then got a job at a bar, so I was working like 70 some hours a week to save up a little money. My sister moved in with me shortly thereafter, and she paid for the first half of my wrestling school, the first down payment. Paid her back, paid off Scott, and just busted ass there, being the worst wrestler I'm sure that they had in school.
At what point in time did you realize this is something I could do? Or you could do?
I don't think there was ever a moment that I thought I could. I just wanted to. So same as hockey. I was the worst hockey player, but I didn't ever stop showing up because I knew if I kept doing it, eventually I was probably going to be good enough that somebody wanted me around. And that was kind of the thing with wrestling for me, is I really like being in a ring. It's a lot of fun being in a ring, and eventually I'd probably be good enough that somebody wanted to book me somewhere. So I don't think there was ever a moment, even when I got back here a couple of years back, and I started contacting promoters, I was just like, please, sir, until everybody said no, and then I messaged Jason Mosier and was like, I'm better than your entire roster, book me. And that was the only way I got booked.
Was there a point where Scott D'Amore said, this is something you could do?
3 weeks into training, Scott nicknamed me Paperboy because he said I looked like his paperboy.
There's a joke that not you, but skinny guys bump like a paper in the wind.
Yeah, floating down.
Yeah.
I attack the mat. I attack ropes. He had a guy who showed up called Preacher all the time, who watched all of us train and used to be an old manager in the Michigan area. Mm-hmm. Richard Munier, and Rich called me a protege after 3 weeks. He said, I've never seen somebody catch on faster. I've never seen somebody desire things faster. And all that's surely bullshit because, again, I sucked at everything that I did.
Do you think you're just hard on yourself, though, or do you think...
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. But internally, being in a ring, I felt like I was the worst trainee there.
It's probably better than thinking you're the best.
Sure, most sure. Yeah, it was... but he got Alex Shelley to show up. And Patrick showed up because of Richard, and I'll forever thank Preacher for this, because Patrick didn't always show up to the school. He only showed up when he wanted to. And he walked in, he was wearing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre hoodie. I'll never forget it. He had it flipped up, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Walks in, looks in the ring. It was me, Dan, El Verso. Who else was there? I think Matthew Fournette may have been there, and Sasanka, an Indian wrestler. And he walked in, he looks in, throws his bag down, takes off his stuff, puts on his knee pads, rolls in, and he goes, you, come here. And it was 15 minutes of chain work. With
Alex Shelley?
Yeah, where he did the weirdest shit that's ever been done to me. And he was just like, spin, move, roll, bump, get up, skip, move, and he'd just call it, and I'd do it.
Yeah.
Rolled back out, took off his stuff, walked out. No word was spoke with the man. Nothing was said. Dan looks at me and he goes, did he stiff you? I went, no, I'm fine. And he goes, he likes you.
Yeah.
And that was all of my interactions with that guy. It was just chain where if he hit you, or if he snugged you, or if he clipped you in your kidneys, it was because you weren't doing something right. I never got that. Johnny Devine was the same way. I've watched Johnny shoot on people like a crazy person, because he's tough as nails and he knows what he's doing. I've never had Johnny do anything but take care of me in a ring. He was the nicest person. Same as Tyson. Dude. Super nice, yeah. Took care of me. Like
Tyson's one of the best trainers I've ever seen. I've seen him run a few seminars. It's unreal.
he babies you.
Yeah,
he takes care of you like a dad.
he's so good. Like I've seen, I don't know, probably 50 different seminars in my life, probably more.
Yep.
He is one of the best.
He's my
if
favorite.
not, he's like one or two, like, or one A type thing.
Yep.
You know, like it's just unreal watching him train people. It's so mind opening, and he does it the way other people are looking at you, want you to do it. He does it the way WWE does it, and he wants, because he knows that's where everyone's goal should be, right, or whatever. And because I've seen WWE people train people, and then I see him, I'm like, it's the exact same thing. Maybe not everything, but like the basic stuff. That's what he does.
Dude's
like,
brilliant.
Yeah, so smart, so nice.
Again, very fortunate for every moment that I ever spent in a ring with him.
Yeah. It's fun, and it's funny that you said Alex Shelley. One of Gary's students from his second class, one of the classes that were actually trained by Gary in like 2006, loved Alex Shelley too. He used to come. We used to have a DVD player and a TV at the school. He would come with Alex Shelley's DVDs, Ring of Honor DVDs, and he would try to emulate every single thing that Alex Shelley did. And you guys would have had a similar build. He was still a really small dude. Yeah. Maybe weighed 120 to 125 pounds.
That would have been me at school.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've got Cody Blade obsessed with Alex now.
Yeah,
it's his first time getting into him, and now he's at the school emulating everything from 2002 Alex Shelley. Yeah, and I'm like, yes, good.
Yeah, and it was all like, it wasn't even necessarily. It was all his mat based stuff. His holds and stuff. Like he would transition to transition.
He's the most one of the most brilliant. Jorge Rivera Skida is my favorite transitional wrestler ever, and he trained all the Dragon Gate workers. Okay. Seema's one of my favorite wrestlers at that point as well, and Alex Shelley picked up all of his stuff from Jorge Rivera, which he would have picked up through Mike Quackenbush at the Chikara factory. Right. And all that stuff was just stuff that I studied non-stop. Seeing Claudio Castagnoli versus Alex Shelley.
That's Cesaro, if you don't know.
Yeah. I probably watched that match 800 times. Yeah. Like, obsessively nitpicking every minor detail so that I could do everything they did.
Do you think, you bring up, maybe, I never asked this question before, but you saying that made me think of, do you think wrestlers today, or with not even necessarily today, let's say the last 15 years, have it a lot easier, not necessarily the training, but a lot easier than wrestlers would have had it in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, because of the access to all the footage that they have? YouTube didn't exist till 2006. And before that, DVDs were a thing, and it was tape trading. But do you think wrestlers today have it easier being able to find this stuff and see it, as opposed to someone that was trained, like in, just say, Ric Flair's day?
I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I think it is easier for us to get access to the information, to the matches, to evolve as workers, but the double-edged sword of that is it also creates a funnel of wrestling where fans echo what they want from those things, and then wrestlers echo it back to them, and you end up with this really small, narrow window for what wrestling is and is not sometimes, where you'll see 80 backstabbers or 80 super kicks on a show because it gets a pop.
Yeah.
But I can remember when the Taliban backpack first came out, the backstabber, and it was done in like PWG in 2001, and the crowd lost it. Like, it was the craziest thing that's ever existed. Yeah. And now it's just a transitionary move that you do, and nobody sells. It's not a finish. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
And so that funnel to me is an issue. Not an issue. It is a reaction to having so much content and people copying the content, as opposed to, even just to go back to 70s era of like Jeff Jarrett first starting to come out. Mm-hmm. First big hair, baby face Jeff Jarrett. The missing link is one of the big heels at that point in that area that he's working. And missing link is awesome.
Yeah.
But he's a terrible wrestler at what he does. He only does like 3 things in a ring.
Yeah.
But he had a career. Yeah. He could make a living off of it. He looked like $1 million. His promos were great. that character couldn't exist
People
today.
believed.
Oh, totally believable. I believed that guy definitely didn't have a 9-to-5 job. That he like ate chains when he left the ring. Like, he just ate metal or something in the back. Like, he's an insane person.
A lot of those old guys are still like that. They want to keep the kayfabe alive, right?
Yeah. And which is beautiful.
Yeah. I had a picture with Leo Burke and Cuban Assassin at the same time. Cuban wanted nothing to do with that picture. Leo Burke made him go in the
That's
picture.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Keep it alive.
Yeah.
And that is like, to me, at that point in time when you don't have access, if somebody did something, it's theirs, it's unique, it's one of one, you'll never see it again. Cross body block was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
When you saw Ricky Steamboat jump off with his cross body, nobody else did it like him.
Yeah.
That was the coolest moment ever to everybody. Macho
Wahoo
Man's elbow.
finished people with a chop.
Yes.
Yeah.
People believed it.
Yeah.
But it was because you didn't see 30 other people on the internet doing a chop and not selling it.
Yeah.
And so it's the Stone Cold thing is what I'll always use to the boys. What's Stone Cold's finish? It's just a jawbreaker.
Yeah.
How many jawbreakers do you see in the run of a show? It's a nothing move. I'll use it as a babyface to just open space before a comeback or a cutoff.
You do it coming through the ropes.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I like it.
But like just a normal jawbreaker
Yeah.
is the same as a stunner.
Yeah.
So how did the stunner become a finish?
Yeah.
Because he created that moment for himself.
Yeah.
And again, so many people are missing that aspect to wrestling that even if there's a copy to everything, there's a reason that somebody can elevate the simplest thing.
And he added the boot to it.
Oh, yeah.
Normally you just grab it and drop,
Yep,
right? But he
the
added the
whippersnapper.
boot. He made it a giant thing.
And how people sell it for him, how people react to it, changed everything for us. So if I would have taken a stunner and stood right up, and expected another move to come, like he was going to pile drive me for his finisher, that move's dead.
Yeah.
Dead in the water. But the fact that Vince McMahon looked like his throat got driven through the back of his skull the first time he took it. He kicked up and fell over. I was like, somebody just died.
And it's a brilliant move because he can hit it on anyone.
Yes.
Your finisher should be a move you could hit on anyone. Not like if Austin's finish was an F5, he's not hitting that on Big Show. He's not Brock Lesnar, right?
Yep. And he's
But
dead in the
he
water.
could hit the stunner on Big Show.
Yep, and he would have been dead in the water.
Yeah.
So again, a thing that I talk about all the time at the school with guys here is 175-pound guy going, I really want to do this move, and I go, but can you do it against everyone?
Yeah.
And they go, well, no. And I go, then why would you do it? Psychologically, if you're a real fighter, why would you develop a skill that you can only use against 10% of your opponents?
Right.
You wouldn't waste the time developing that skill set.
Yeah.
Not that you don't have it, not that you can't pull it out of your thing, but why would you have wasted the time developing it? You should develop your skills to beat everyone of every size.
Yeah. And you were talking to that effect. I heard Jake Roberts once say, someone asked him, does it make you mad that everyone uses the DDT now as a transition move? People kick out at one. He's like, nope, doesn't bother me at all, because when I hit it, no one's getting up.
Yeah. His is different.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same as Diener. I see Diener use it, and I'm just like, that's a finish.
Yeah.
That wasn't anything but a finish to that show. And kids react to it like it's a finish.
Kids react to him unbelievably. I've only filmed two shows with him, but he had a train of children fall. One of my favorite entrances of all time was Diener on Steen's show in Pictou. I mean, there's no barricades or anything for these kids. There must have been 150 kids following him in the ring. I'm standing there with the cameras around it, can't move. Like it's amazing.
He's the Pied Piper of wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. He can get kids to just follow him around.
Yeah.
If he wanted to, he could have a whole match where the kids just follow him behind as he grapples, and the kids could just push him to push the heel. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. It's genius.
He's brilliant. Yeah. Him and Mike Rollins are two of my favorite Canadian wrestlers for their minds. Yeah.
Was there anybody from your training class that went on to become anyone that I would know today?
No. It was me, Sasonka, Hippie Jesus, forget his name, and awkward Andrew
Scott Savage?
and awkward Andrew Kelk. Those were the four of us that I walked into their class. Those were already three guys who were involved in training.
Okay.
And I can remember watching Andrew Kelk get his nose broke. Alex Shelley was practicing a curb stomp. And had his arms up, put his foot on the back, and Scott goes, "Now, Andrew, don't look forward, turn your face to the side." Andrew turns his face to the side, and he goes, "Now, Andrew, what did I tell you?" And he goes, "Don't look for..." Boom! Snapped his nose. Sasanka, great dude. Out of shape Jesus hippie dude. I forget his name entirely.
Hippie Jesus is fine.
Yeah, they were all very nice people. They just weren't super athletic either.
Did they wrestle at all?
No, I don't think any of them has had. Maybe Sasanka, maybe a couple of battle royals for BCW,
Okay.
maybe. I don't think anybody else. But also there was a guy named Jason Temple. He had graduated the class before me. He was always there, Judo Jason Temple. And he's wrestled a few times. There was Muscles Marinara, who's also wrestled a few times for BCW. He had just graduated just before me. A big hunky chest man is what I called him when I was 18. His pecs were like this.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand them, that there was like a crevice between them somehow.
Like
I was
Piggy?
yeah, like freaky. I tried to get him to use an offensive move where he'd grab my head and just go, "Pah!" Bank his pecs off me, and I'd bump it. And then there was Phil Atlas and Dan El Reverso had just finished training 2 classes before me,
Okay.
and so they were helping me out.
So you finished training.
Yeah.
What's next?
So in between finishing training, I'd moved home for 2 years,
Okay.
and then went back and finished.
So how long
my
did you
training.
train for the first time you were there?
That would have been 9 months.
Okay.
And then
Wow.
went back home, and that was...
And you didn't have a match within that 9 months?
I probably had like 300 in training school.
Right.
It's
No,
just,
I mean like
No,
on
I
the
didn't
show.
finish paying Scott my money.
Okay.
And you do not go on a show until you finish Scott paying Scott your money. And so I went back home to Cape Breton to try to make the money to pay back to Scott, because I was not doing a very good job of saving up money living in Ontario.
Paying your trainer, what a concept.
Yeah, huh? you do not get a match without us.
Yeah.
Scott controls Southern Ontario. And so I went back home, saved up, year and 7 months later, came back, went back in. That's when I started training with Tyson. Before that, it was Johnny Devine. Tyson Dukes was his trainer at this point. Spent another 6 months there before I could finally pay off Scott officially. Paid off Scott, and then a month later, I suffered the worst concussion of my life. I was working at the Beach Sports Bar and Grill and got jumped by about 15 dudes on the dance floor. And
Just like Shawn Michaels, 15 dudes? Or?
no, this was like one of my waitresses was about to get hit.
Yeah.
I grabbed the guy that was about to hit her, and then just felt fists start hitting my face, and
crazy.
fell backwards and saw feet and fists coming down on my face. All I remember is flashing lights and feet and fists.
Couldn't imagine, huh? That's
And then I
insane.
saw my bouncer Nico fly through the air, and as soon as he hit someone or someone's, I had enough space to crawl under a table.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling my eye, which was like out to here, like
Yeah.
puffed right out. My jaw, everything was bloody. And I remember bawling my eyes out that my hat was missing. It's the only thing I could remember was going, "Where's my hat?" And I was under a beer bin at this point, and the waitress above me was bawling, trying to get me out to get medical help.
Was this in Ontario?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was like a 1,000-person fight that broke out. The whole bar turned into a huge battle, like bouncers jumping in, bartenders jumping over bars. There's like 2 gangs in the bar that night, all fighting each other.
It's good times.
Yeah, it was Windsor's ridiculous. Especially at that point, that was just around the time of the recession.
Okay.
2008, 2009, and so the Windsor was a boom city where, as a bar back, I made $400 a weekend in tips. When I came back, I made $50 a weekend in tips. The auto industry collapse happened.
Yeah.
There was a massive strike in the city for civil work. Everyone was livid at each other, and I got the shit kicked out of me. The owners of the bar told me that I should probably leave. And so I up and left Windsor about 3 weeks later, moved to BC, and then worked in the construction industry in BC for about 6 months.
Why BC?
My ex-fiance was from British Columbia. My dad lives out there. And so I went out to BC to try to just get some semblance of balance to my life.
And this is after your 9 months, right?
This is after going back to Windsor, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm 2000.
After you paid the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is after the concussion.
Yeah.
I'm a fully trained pro wrestler at this point.
Okay.
Fully paid up with Demore. Could be wrestling shows, but am like concussed, lost, post-concussion syndrome, lividly angry, living on the West Coast, very uncomfortable. 6 months of working construction. I suffered another concussion, and then I started hitchhiking and living on farms. Kind of went crazy, and started woofing for the first time. So, willing worker on organic farms. And so I was a serf, essentially. I had a home and food in exchange for me working. And so I lived in homes that people needed farm labor. And they gave me 3 square meals a day, roof over my head, and I just worked any jobs that they needed at the house. So it was 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And that was what I did for 2 more years. Then hitchhiked. That's when I learned how to play music. Learned guitar. Hitchhiked across Canada. Played some shows. Played a bunch of Cape Breton. Met a couple of folks in Cape Breton, Scott and Jen Moore, who owned 64 acres of land. They allowed me to try to build my house there. Started trying to build a house. Learned to farm. Learned to grow some stuff. And then rheumatoid arthritis, and back to wrestling. That was the next 4 years, 5 years. Yeah.
So how long did you do the woof thing for?
2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm wrong with this, just correct me. So you were essentially homeless for didn't have an actual place of your own. For
6 years.
6 years?
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah.
What's that like?
Weird. Yeah. Fun.
Because not a lot of people can do that and survive, you know?
Yeah, a lot of fun. Woofing was weird. I was sold at one point in time, which was really weird. It was
you were sold?
Yeah.
As a person?
I was living on a farm, and the owner was like, you're living with this man now. You will go into his car and drive to his land. And I was like, oh. Okay, and I only had $17 to my name, so there was no option. There was I couldn't get off that island, so the choice.
Where was this?
Salt Spring Island.
Where's that?
Off the coast of Vancouver.
Okay.
Between Vancouver and Vancouver Island, and so I showed up at a multi-millionaire's property who wrote social policy for the World Bank, and he was building his utopian land and had us working as free labor to build his utopian land. So, I showed up there to work for him. And he was crazy. He was absolutely crazy. The place he had us living in didn't have a door. So didn't have plumbing. So I had to go outside and fill up a bucket of water from a hose that stuck out of the ground that was supposed to go into the plumbing inside of the house. And that's how you flushed. That's how you washed your dishes. Lived there for 5 months before we finally moseyed on from there. And then I lived on the land of a tattoo artist who was doing... he was doing a grow-op. So he needed somebody to grow actual food on the property to make it look like it wasn't a grow-op. So I lived there for a short period of time. So that they could get farming incentives and tax decreases because they were a farm. So I lived there for 8 months, I think it was. Left there with a tattoo.
Didn't see that there.
The tattoo. That was part of my payment.
Okay.
$1,500 in my pocket and some weed to go across Canada with. And that's how I moseyed back to the East Coast.
Did you go to any shows along your way while you were in Vancouver? Because there was
wrestling.
BC. You didn't watch it?
Not at all. After I left Windsor, wrestling became a very depressing thought to me.
Did you watch television?
No,
WWE?
nothing.
No.
Nothing. The thought of me never being able to do it again was horrible. So just avoided it. I went into complete sustainability at that point. So I owned 2 pairs of pants. One was my town pants. One was my work pants. I owned a pair of shorts that were my only pair of shorts. They were patched together with everything that I could. Just a hole would appear and some piece of fabric that somebody gave me patched onto it until that piece ripped out and a new piece of fabric patched onto it, and eventually there was a whole new pair of shorts patched inside of it to keep those together. I only owned 2 sweaters. I owned 2 t-shirts. I owned 1 hat. I had 1 small bag of things. Most of my things that I owned were things that I wrote. So I had writing books upon writing books upon writing books.
Still have them?
Yeah, every one of them. Yeah, inside that thing in the bottom, and inside this thing over here, there's probably about 10.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's that was all I owned. I rallied against anything that was unsustainable. I was obsessive over it. Started reading social theory a whole lot. Got obsessed with communism, socialism, then anarchism. Became obsessed with Peter Kropotkin. The Conquest of Bread is my favorite thing ever written. Became obsessed with what's his name? I can't remember his name now.
What about?
I can't even remember his name. He was a surveyor in the 1800s who left civilization to live next to a lake. And I've read all of his works, and they're all just him talking about how much he hates people that work for money and how he wishes that all people would just work together for the betterment of humankind, and that people work together forever, that the creation of money didn't create more labor, that it just created classism, and I just became obsessed with it. Yeah, and then again, living on land in Cape Breton, trying to build my own house out there, and I failed miserably at that. Like, single person trying to build in the middle of the woods, I learned very quickly that you need money or people to do that with, and that's when I first became a communal anarchist as opposed to a libertarian anarchist, and then learned that nothing humans do is without the 10,000 years of human history prior to it, so nothing I will ever accomplish is mine. It is the accomplishment of every person who ever built me, and so nothing I own is mine. Everything I build is everyone's.
When you were coming across Canada, were you by yourself, or did you have anyone with you?
I hitchhiked once with my friend Katrina. I hitchhiked twice alone. Yeah.
How was it being alone? Like, were you ever in fear or anything like that? Like, were you ever in any danger? Or,
no. Angry a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without sleep, on the side of a highway for 4 or 5 hours with your thumb out, seeing cars whiz past you and not pick you up. Yeah. Infuriating. Just fuming on the side of a highway, and then somebody picks you up and you're the happiest person that's ever been.
All that goes away.
Like a flood instantly. And that taught me a lot of patience. Road tripping across Canada, I did it in 11 days. I also did it in 5 days. So I've been from BC to Cape Breton, took me 5 days, and that taught me to not
that
sleep.
long, actually.
Oh, that was super fast.
Yeah.
We were doing 160 through the prairies.
Yeah.
That taught me not to sleep for long periods, to stay up on road trips, to make sure that the guy driving has somebody there with them the whole time.
All these kids today don't get that. Like, the driver's awake, you're awake.
I don't care about backseat boys' sleep.
Yeah.
Person in the front seat.
Yeah, if you're rotating drivers,
100%.
Someone's got to sleep, but someone's got to be awake.
Yeah, always. And like, I didn't have a license for the first 2 years here riding around, boys.
Yeah.
So I'm front seat wide awake.
Yeah.
I'll drive 30 hours with you front seat wide awake.
Yeah.
I don't care. If you need me, I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you get back to Cape Breton?
That would have been 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, I came back in 2011 for a show. went back to BC, and then came back
Wrestling
again
show,
in
or?
2012. No, playing music.
Music, okay.
I was a folk musician for a bit.
Yeah. When did you start watching wrestling again?
2013, maybe 2014.
WWE or Ring of Honor or WC, or not WCW, but
I actually can't remember the first thing that I watched again.
You don't remember?
No. I probably was hanging out with my cousin Dan,
Yeah.
one of the guys who got me into wrestling when I was a kid. We were hanging out at his house, and he probably just threw on WWE because he always watched it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I saw. I can't remember why I got motivated again back to it. But it's like I said, it's a very depressing thing for me when I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
And at this point, I hadn't had a concussion in 6 years at that point, and so I banged my head a lot. I'd been playing sports a lot. I play ultimate frisbee constantly, so I was out being physical, and I wasn't having any concussion symptoms. So yeah, I'd contacted Dick Durning, I think, was the first person I contacted. I seen a couple of his matches locally, and thought he was the person that I...
You didn't know him at all before that?
Oh, not at all, no. I liked a few of his matches. I thought he was one of the best local workers, and so I'd message him and I said, hey, like, I want to get back into being in a ring. Actually, that you're on one of the local shows coming up soon with UCW. Can I come down and meet you guys? And it was...
When was this?
He was selling the ring to Chuck. And so it was him, Fantana, James Steele, and Wesley Pipes were on a UCW show.
Okay, this would have been like 13 or 14 maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
2013 or 14 for...
Yeah. And Wesley Pipes fought Cody Blade. James Steele fought Dick Durning. I'm not sure who Fantana worked that night. But I remember I'm in the crowd in that show, on the bench against the wall, like this, for about 80% of that show, wanting to pull my hair out, watching some of the worst matches I've ever watched, not including the people I mentioned.
You suck, Dick.
Yeah, you're the worst, Dirty. No, I remember, I still have the little write-up from that show, and I remember writing, I'd never seen Sidewalk Sam match, and I remember writing, I like homeless man's gimmick, and he's a safe worker. I remember writing Dick Durning's the man. I remember writing Jeff Hardy bump kid needs to learn to wrestle.
Cody,
yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how far he's come. I filmed probably his first match or his first couple of matches. It's unreal. They're on YouTube.
He is, everybody check him out. I know I have.
Yeah.
He is one of my favorite humans in how he has changed, not just in a ring, but outside of it.
Yeah.
He is night and day different than the dude I met 2 years ago.
I think he was in high school when I met him.
And I met him at that show, and it wasn't a good interaction. But 2 years ago, when I met him, I've been in Halifax for 2 years now officially, and he's just a totally different man than he was when I met him. Yeah.
So back to that show.
Yes,
what happened afterwards? You watched the matches. You were not impressed.
I was and was not. There were some that I was, and most that I was not. UCW was glorified backyard promotion.
It's a completely different promotion back then. For people.
It was garbage at that point. Yeah, and I don't pull punches. The booking changed, and the booking is night and day better. Burke's work with UCW has been amazing. It turned it into a product that was something to be proud of, as opposed to, as much as Chuck loves his baby, it was a really bad promotion.
Yeah.
I worked for Chuck and Sledgehammer Spike when I was 15, so I've known Chuck for a dog's age.
Yeah.
He
was on the first backyard show I ever filmed. It was at the Halifax Forum at that. CWF, Canadian Wrestling Federation.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
my best friend. One of my best friends was on that show at that point.
He's loyal to wrestling.
Chuck?
In the most wonderful and beautiful way.
Yeah.
But has allowed a lot of shit to exist around him.
Oh yeah.
And so at that show there was a lot of shit existing around, and I was very unimpressed. Dick Durning, I locked up with Fantana. We did a little bit of grappling.
Was that your first time since like Boulder
Yeah,
City?
ever. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's the first time since school. And I locked up with them, did a little bit of grappling, and I remember Fantana going, "Can you teach me what you just did?" And Pipes looked at me and went, "Yeah, you're a D'Amour kid."
Yeah.
And Durning invited me to St. John.
Yeah.
I went down to New Brunswick. I got an apartment down there. Spent 3 months getting my ring rust back off. Trying to find somebody to book me. Trying to find a promotion that would have me in. And no one wanted to book me.
Even Durning at this point?
Nope.
Because they had some not so good guys on those shows too.
Yeah. That was very,
XWA, right? Or was it Vision
no,
Pro?
that was
yet?
Vision at
It
that
was
point.
Vision Pro at
And that was a
point?
very
Okay.
angering point for me,
She's
was
fine, she's
watching people get booked that I knew that I was better than, and I knew he knew I was better than. But I had a stigma against me. A few people in the Maritimes I had messaged trying to get back into wrestling, and they were very uncordial to me, and didn't like me, and didn't like the way I approached them.
Hold that thought. So I just had to change the battery there. So you were talking about how you had been in touch and not being well received, or trying to get in touch with some of the guys in the Maritimes and not being well received. Who were you contacting?
I contacted Mr. Fantastic in Newfoundland.
Dan?
Dan Bjorkendahl, who just... he told me that people I trained with told him that they had no idea who I was. And I had just spoken with those people, like, a minute earlier on Facebook. And they were like, no, he never contacted us. And so he was like, no, Phil Atlas has no idea who you are. And I was like, Phil Atlas was just at my house yesterday. Like, he's on tour and just came through my house. You can't tell me he doesn't know who I am. And he was like, yeah, I have no idea who you are. Scott D'Amour has no idea who you are. And I was like, I was
Who
just
said
talking.
this?
Dan Bjorkendahl.
Oh.
He ghosted me.
That guy's, yeah.
Marcus Burke
He's in jail now or
tore
something.
an absolute strip off of me when I messaged him. Called me a mark, called me a loser, told me I never trained to be a wrestler. And he blocked me. And
What were you saying to these guys?
I literally messaged him saying, hey, I got trained by Scott D'Amour.
That was it.
And I would really like to be on a show.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how I could get involved in this. And they just tore a strip off of me.
For
right
no
away. I
reason.
could never...
Did you ever ask him after?
My message to Burke originally was asking him about his character.
Yeah.
I asked him...
Mr. Suave, Joshua Arrow?
I asked him why a character named Mr. Suave couldn't understand basic words that were being spoken to him in promos, and I didn't understand the transition of his character.
Yeah.
And it was a little basic
The transition from Joshua to
Mr.
Burke?
Suave to the Burke.
It was because
character.
Mike didn't want Joshua
And I just
Suave
asked.
on his show.
Yeah, and I just asked.
Because it was a children's show.
Yes.
So that name came up within like 10 seconds. It was like, what are you going to be called? Marcus Burke. And Mike Hughes
Done.
gave Eric Suave that name.
Yep. And so, again, it was to me, I just messaged him to ask. As a fan of wrestling, a fan of Maritimes, a guy who I hadn't watched Maritime Wrestling in a long time.
Yeah.
I found your site and Mike Miles' site and just started watching a shitload of wrestling and was trying to figure out who was who. And I seen Dick Durning was Dick Durning. He was dazzling Dick Durning, but he was Dick Durning. I seen Marcus Burke was Josh Arrow. He's Mr. Suave, and he was Marcus Burke on like 3 different matches I'd watched. And I was like, okay, you're a good wrestler. I would like to get booked in the area. How do I do that? And what is your character? And he was like, you're a loser. You're a mark. You're a wanker.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Like, I'll never let you get booked here. Like, I'll make sure of it. And I was like, oh, okay. That sucks. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to
That's so
just
weird.
trying to get involved in this
Yeah.
stuff. And it seems like on your shows, there's a lot of weird people. I can't be the weirdest.
Yeah.
And I didn't get booked until I messaged Jason Mosier and told him flat out that I was better than half his roster.
So all of that stuff didn't make you not want to be involved. You still wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to like Dick or Suave about those messages?
No,
You've never asked.
No, I make little offhanded comments because that's the person
I'm
I
gonna
am.
ask.
I'm the type of guy who like I'll look at Durning because Durning and I love each other. Like he's one of my brothers, and like I'll just like gave me a big hug after one of my matches, and he was like, "That was fucking spectacular," and I was like, "Yeah, too bad you didn't book me, hey." And he's like, "I hate you." I'm like, yeah, like that's like a little, or like Burke and I was like,
Because clearly Eric Suave, man, that guy's got a lot of names. Changed his mind about you because while he's booking UCW, you were his champion for over a year. His Maritime champion for over a year.
He likes my work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like.
Maybe that's his way of saying sorry.
I'll never hear the words out of that man's lips.
No.
I'm sure. But and again, we'll never be friends. But the mutual respect of business is definitely there. Like he's somebody who I love his in-ring work. His business acumen is great. He's a great booker. He's done amazing things for the Maritimes. He's I loved working him. I got to work him once in Quebec, and it was a great time. Simple.
Yeah, he's another guy. I've seen him from day one.
Yeah.
Like 2005, IHW started. He was Mr. Suave. Joshua Arrow did the whole thing.
Fire and wire shirts.
Yeah, and pleather shorts.
Yeah.
If he would have started doing what he started doing 2 or 3 years ago, he probably would have made it. I didn't ask him in the interview that I did with him, but if we ever do a second one, I'm definitely going to. If he regrets not pushing the way he did 13 years ago as opposed to what he did, because he has so much drive behind him now. Like there's no way he wouldn't have been somewhere. You know what I mean? It
sometimes takes the right person to light a fire under you.
Yeah.
And I don't know who lit his, but he lit mine.
Yeah.
Being told that I wasn't trained really pissed me off, and that made me want to show people around here that you're never going to dictate to me where I work. You're never going to dictate to me that I can't work. You're never going to dictate to me that I'm not good.
Yeah.
I'll dictate that to you.
Because he quit wrestling too at one point.
Yeah. I'll write my own narrative, and if I was a shit wrestler, it would have shown.
Okay.
But I don't believe that I am, and I think that I showed that to all the people who thought that I would have been.
So you were watching Maritime Wrestling on YouTube through mine and Mike's channels.
Yes, sir.
What were you watching?
I think I started.
Or who
with,
were you watching?
Burke, Durning, Fantana, Chambers, XXL.
Steve Arsenal, if you don't know.
Yeah, Steve Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think those were my steadies.
So those are the guys that you enjoyed.
Yeah, and Wesley Pipes, I was enjoying a few of his matches.
Mm-hmm.
There was only so many people that I was like, because I'd seen Brody, I'd seen Mike Hughes, I'd seen Gary Williams for years. I knew their work and like steady workers, great workers, safe workers, same kind of match. Like I wasn't going to see. Like, I knew what Mike Hughes did. I didn't know what Dazzling Dick Durning did. I'd never seen him wrestle. So, the first time seeing him wrestle was a whole new thing.
Right.
Getting to see guys work Mike Hughes that I'd never seen before was a great enjoyment for me, because watching Mike's a genius at putting matches together.
Yeah.
So, watching him find himself around people is really fun, or finding them around himself is really fun. So, that was cool. I was watching a whole lot of. There was nothing Halifax I was watching unless I was making fun of it, and that was. There's a lot of just untrained dudes around at that point, until I. And this is, I again just arrogantly, but like I was watching them and going, oh yeah, I definitely will do well around there. I have no worry about being on that show whatsoever. Yeah. And I think that's why I showed up at shows having maybe more arrogance, maybe less fear. Like I don't break curtain afraid. I'm not worried at all. And that might come from the fact that I was just like, worst case scenario, I'm not that. And that's me being an asshole, but that's what it was.
Did that come from because you were trained by Scott DeMoor? You knew you were properly trained?
Yes.
She loves that bag.
Beeston loves bags, yeah. I knew that I was well trained, and I knew that people who were professionals, who made a living from it, told me that I was a good trainee, told me that I was a good wrestler, and if they thought it of me, then the likelihood that people around here wouldn't was slim to nil. And if they didn't, I mean, I would have come to learn a lesson, and that's kind of all things were for me, was I was 29, almost 30 at that point. Rheumatoid arthritis, 10 concussions. Couldn't open my hands in the morning without prying them apart. If I failed at it, I failed at it. At that point, there was almost nothing to lose. So it was be the best or figure out that you were the worst.
All right, so you said you contacted Jason Mosier, who was the promoter of Wrestle Center. You've said a couple of times now that you flat out told him that you were better than most of his roster.
Yep.
What was his response?
He laughed. He set up a video Skype with him and Tyler.
Yeah.
And I just promoted to them. And Tyler went, "Can you come here and do exactly what you just did?" And I went, "Yes." And he goes, "Okay, there's a spot for you." And I showed up and found out that my spot was jobbing to Rodney Broom. And then
I reffed that match.
Yes, you did. That was my first professional match ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here's we've talked about this a few times before. Had you known Tommy Starr, James, at that point at all yet? Had you met him?
Never once.
No. Okay.
No.
So that match, I reffed, and it was like 3 minutes.
Yep.
And it was not pretty.
Nope.
And I'm just being honest, right?
Yeah.
It was not pretty. And I don't know if it was your next match or a few matches later, you were getting to wrestle Space Monkey.
Yes, sir.
And I was reffing that match as well, and I was talking to James about it, Tommy Starr, a few days before, and I'm like, I wish they would have given Space Monkey someone talented to wrestle. And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, was there many matches in between Space Monkey and James and Rodney?"
I had Rodney, squash match 3 minutes. I had Jordan Como, squash match 4 minutes. Those are my 2 matches.
And then Space Monkey.
With Wrestle Center,
Yeah, okay.
My only other matches as a pro at that point was 2 Battle Royals with Atlantic Grand Prix up in Cape Breton and 1 match in Ontario against Big Daddy D-Roy. Yeah.
So you must have done some training and stuff with James in between at some point. No? Okay.
I showed up at the school and just did my kind of normal stuff at that point, but I just came down for that show.
Okay, so we had a conversation when you were getting to wrestle Space Monkey, and I was like, I wish they would have gave Space Monkey someone talented to wrestle, because I had no idea who you were. I was basing everything off that first 3-minute match. And he was like, no, Covey has some serious skills in there. I'm like, are you sure? And he was like, no, he does. He's like, trust me. I'm like, okay. I was like, I trust James' opinion.
Yep.
I'm like, maybe he knows something I don't. And clearly he did. Because that match, I've reffed that match, and that match I was so looking forward to seeing Space Monkey wrestle, but I was so disappointed he was wrestling you.
Yep.
And after that match, I think I told you this, but maybe I told you this beforehand. I definitely told you it afterhand. I was like, man, was I wrong. James was 1,000% right. I was blown away by watching that match. I mean, I had the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
I was blown away by watching that match. And I was like, James is right. You have some serious skills in there. And I never once doubted. See, you're one of my favorite guys to watch. And it was being in there with that match was like, okay, that first match was his first match ever. Everyone's first match is generally terrible.
Yep.
And but man, you couldn't get 2 different wrestlers from Rodney to your Rodney
Space
match
Monkey.
to your Space Monkey match. And it was fantastic. But yeah, I remember that specifically. And we've talked about that a few times. I just wanted to get that out there, and it was so. We'll go back now. You get booked. Your match is a squash match against Rodney. You already come in with the attitude that you're better than everybody.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts?
I finished the match. I bawled my eyes out knowing that I had accomplished a goal.
Yeah.
Even just to have a match in my life, I accomplished my goal. Then immediately collected myself and remembered how nothing went as I planned. Nothing was what I wanted. This wasn't the situation I wanted, and I needed to work to get out of where I was immediately.
Yeah.
That was my immediate goal. Was I didn't like the situation I was involved in. I didn't like how the hierarchy was in that locker room. I didn't like who was involved in the locker room all that much, and that wasn't.
Who was in the locker room at that point? I did a lot of shows with Wrestle Center. I can't.
Matt Bullen was the head of the locker room.
What was the main event that night?
I couldn't tell you.
You couldn't tell? Okay.
I don't
Was
think.
Christopher Daniels still there at that
No,
point? Okay.
no. They had brought in Cody Rhodes for one of the shows I was on.
Okay.
They brought in.
Was Kurt Angle there then? There?
No. I don't remember.
Dreamer?
Dreamer was one of my shows.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes was one of my shows. My first show had Dom Bouligne, Eli Surge, Ryan Rogan, Ryan Donovan was there.
Okay. I remember that one.
Because they had to bring in a bunch of outside talent because nobody locally would work for them anymore.
Right.
And thankfully for me, I met a bunch of dudes that I like as humans still to this day.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of guys that I got to train and travel with and meet at shows, and we all joke around about where we met up at. But yeah, I just remember Tyler was super nice to me. I remember him coming up, and somebody had mentioned that there was written out promos, and I said, "Do you have a promo for me?" And he went, "No, you just go do your thing.
Yeah.
You already know what you're doing."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, cool. That's fantastic that you're letting me have the freedom to be my character that I'm developing."
Yeah.
They filmed some backstage stuff, and that was fun to do. Like I said, I like character work a lot.
Yeah.
But I never felt safe with who I was wrestling. And that would be what you would have seen from my first two matches, was I have hesitation if I'm worried about my body. And those first two matches were definitely hesitant.
Yeah.
When somebody picked me up for a suplex and had to put me back down to reapply a suplex to me, that horrified me.
And I could be dead wrong on this, but I don't think Rodney or Jordan ever went to a full-length training school.
I also don't believe so.
There's 1,000 people here that claim to be trained by Wildman Gary Williams. I don't know if this is who these guys are trained that aren't trained by Wildman Gary Williams.
Yep.
They may have done like a few classes and stuff with him.
Or seminar or whatever.
That's it. And I don't know who Rodney says trained him, and I don't know who Jordan says trained him.
Nor do I.
But
I just know
that's the deal. They didn't go to a full-length proper training school.
Nope.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Some people don't and are fine, but most people are not.
Yes, and it shows.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Space Monkey came in, and my first conversation with him was such a weight lifted off my shoulders, where I was just like, oh, we get to have a good match. I get to have fun. Can I do all of this? And he was like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And he was like, can I do all of this? And I was like, you can.
Yeah.
And he was like, can you take that? And I was like, I can. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, took that when I was 16. Like, buddy, we're going to have a good time. And that was a lot of fun. That match, I owe that match to changing everyone's perception on me in the Maritime.
Changed mine, 1,000%. Yeah.
Dave Boyce became a fan of mine. Sabotage became a fan of mine.
Veterans at that point.
Well, yeah, they sure carried themselves. But, like, they told other people about me, who told other people, who told other people, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have gotten booked, I wouldn't have traveled, I wouldn't have had friends. Yeah, I don't think anybody would have cared about me if it wasn't for that match.
Yeah, no, it was a great match.
Much fun.
Loved it, yeah. So Wrestle Center closed after the Tommy Dreamer Matt Bullen match.
Yep.
What were your thoughts?
Nothing.
You didn't care?
Nope. No.
Were you already wrestling somewhere else?
I'd worked a couple NWE shows, MSW shows, but no, I no letters of promotion matter to me. No name of a promotion matters to me. If there's a ring and there's people to wrestle, and safe wrestlers, I'm very happy.
Did you think that you were now going to get less chances to be in that ring because there was the promotion was gone?
Nope. I had my matches that people needed to see me in, and I knew that as a good wrestler, I was probably going to get booked. Worst case scenario, I'd take my butt and move back to Ontario, and I'd get booked there.
Okay.
That was the worst case.
Wrestle Center closed in 2016? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that? 17 maybe?
I'm really bad with timelines.
2017 maybe? Yeah, I am too.
Beginning of 2017?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
This was my Space Monkey match?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then the next month was the anniversary show for UCW.
Right.
And I was booked on that.
Which one was that? Oh, the one with Ryback?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was booked in a six-man scramble
in
the
That was your first UCW match?
Yep.
Okay. So, but before that, you were working for NWE and MSW New Brunswick.
Yep.
What were those promotions like? A lot of people in the Nova Scotia area don't know that much about it. So explain.
A lot of very talented wrestlers. A lot of really dedicated dudes that come through both promotions. And also, same as UCW in the past, a lot of guys who are untrained and have no place being between the ropes right now.
In both of them?
Yeah. And that's like a lot of guys who did seminars or got trained by a guy who was trained by a guy who was trained by a guy who was trained by a guy kind of thing. And that's always hard to deal with. Mm-hmm. That's especially if the leader of the ship is untrained and has never worked on other shows. It's really hard for them to understand how the flow of actual shows works. And then when you come in with the perspective of, I've worked for 25 other promotions in the past 3 years, 2.5 years, here's my opinion on it, and that person tells you you're an idiot, gets grinding. So that was an issue with both of those promotions, was just dealing with people who were untrained. But the Wesley Pipes, the Tomahawks, the ZPBs,
These from the States, right? Tomahawk?
Yeah.
Rhode Island or somewhere?
Yep. Yeah. Fantana. There's some good wrestlers in both of those promotions that I like working. There's just also, your Homeless Bobs and your K.I. Reels and your Preston Carters, which
He's a promoter, Preston?
Yeah.
Were you? I know you and Devin Chittick don't get along. Were you around for that promo that everyone talked about there for a little while?
Promo.
Where he went out and he swore or something.
Oh yes, I was at NWE that night. Yeah.
What do you remember of that?
So I had drove to NWE a few times, and like I said, had no major issues at that point with most of anybody. I mean, I didn't like how Preston booked, but whatever. Me and Chittick didn't get along because he was very abusive verbally toward Pelly, and I couldn't stand that. Pelly's a very good man. He was very verbally abusive against a couple other people. I didn't enjoy it. My first match with him, he was drunk. I didn't enjoy that. So we had negative interactions. I tried to make them positive because I am constantly trying to see the best in people. So I talked to Chittick about the fact that he could stop drinking, he could stop partying, he could stop doing all the things that people light him up about.
He did for a while.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I don't know if that had to do with our conversations, but at one point in time, I ripped him apart in a car where I just told him that all the religious bigotry that he goes on about, he's the most religious person I've ever met at his anti-spiritualism. He screams at you like a Jehovah's Witness. He's annoying. He's terrifying. He's not like terrifying as in like...
Yeah,
I don't want to be around him. I'm terrified that he's going to speak. So we had nice conversations. I was like, everybody thinks you're a dirtbag. Everybody thinks you're a bad dude in the Maritimes. You should just be Devin Chittick. Get rid of the Forrest Cullen gimmick.
I told him the exact same thing.
Be dirtbag Devin Chittick.
Yeah.
That would be the best character for you.
I told him the exact same thing.
Everyone hates you. And I don't mean that like... live the character brother, but like nobody thinks you're Forrest Cullen. Everyone in the crowd knows you're Devin Chittick.
Yeah.
So just be the dirtbag Devin Chittick.
Yeah.
And so we worked on a promo that was him coming out, and he was just going to be like, I don't want to sell 8x10s. I don't want to sell my shitty stuff. I don't care about your kids. I'm dirtbag Devin Chittick, and tonight I'm going to go get drunk, and I'm going to go back to my hotel with one of your moms. That was the basis of it. There was no cursing. There was no fuck this, fuck that, or anything. It was just like a real heel transition for him. And I was upstairs at that show. I didn't hear any of the promo. I just heard 3 people run upstairs going, he's cursing! He's cursing on the mic! And I remember sitting in the corner going, oh, that's not what I said. That's not at all what I said. That's not how this was supposed to go at all. Yeah, so, I remember that. That was the same show that Preston Carter screamed at me because a metal ring broke on his turnbuckle. and he screamed at me saying
Why
that I
you?
broke his ring.
Oh.
And I was like, I can't break steel.
Yeah.
I-
What are you kidding? Look at those guns.
yeah. I was like, I assure you. And he was like, these have been here forever and they've never broke. And I was like, well, that sounds like it broke via stress. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's been here forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were interesting times.
And at this point in time, have you ever worked for Red Rock?
Never.
No. And up until now, you've never worked for IHW either.
Never.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Those
those were
very
your
exciting.
only promotions. Did you work for Vision Pro?
Nope.
They were closed. Okay.
Yep.
So your only wrestling in New Brunswick was Vision Pro,
Was UCW?
or was and at that point was MSW New Brunswick and
NWE.
and NWE.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you get booked on the anniversary show for UCW in 2017?
Sabotage. Justin Connors put me over real hard. A couple other people put me over
Because
real
Suave
hard.
was the booker at this point.
Yep.
And he hated you.
Absolutely. And I showed up at that show. I showed up, I think it was 8 o'clock.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the whole show. I built the ramp with Connors.
Yeah.
It broke like numerous times and we had to frantically build it right
I
before the show.
remember. And then Leo was there and came and helped too.
Sure did.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate for that.
Because he does this stuff for a living, I think,
Yeah,
or does it anyway? Yeah.
Leo's outside going, and I'm like, oh my god, Leo, I don't want to, you're such a nice person. I don't want to, please, I don't want to screw things. Yeah, I was sitting in the back locker room, had my gear on, and Chuck came and was like, you're not booked. And I was like, what? And Chuck Martin was like, I'm not booking you. You're not on the show.
Yeah.
And that was 5 minutes before curtain. And then...
Because you were in the VIP portion of that show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was 5 minutes before it was about to start. We already had the match planned, everything ready, like, geared up. And Chuck was like, you're not booked.
Did you say what?
No.
All right.
No. And then Burke went to bat for me, got me booked, went out, had the match. Great. After that match, I don't think I missed a UCW show. I think they had me permanently booked after that.
So that anniversary show was in April of 2017.
Yep.
You were pretty much booked permanently with UCW up until just recently.
Yep.
You won the Maritime title. The champion was Cody.
Yep.
But he was somewhere else, and you wrestled Madison Miles that night.
Yes, sir.
You hadn't wrestled a girl before,
Never.
I'd imagine. What were your thoughts going in that you were now going to wrestle Madison?
Lots of fun. Yeah. Small person. A lot of fun to throw around.
Not hesitant at all? Cause,
No.
she was like 17 at the time?
No worries.
16?
I have two older sisters.
Yeah.
I come from a mostly female family. I'm one of only like 4 guys in my family, 5 guys. So I've been fighting girls most of my life, and most of them are tougher than me.
Yeah.
Most of them kick the shit out of me. So the idea that there was a tough young lady who wanted to get in the ring didn't seem like it was. I just wasn't gonna punch her. That was like the only thing in my head was don't swing a fist at the kid's head. And unfortunately, I did have to swing a fist at her head because Madison's a really good wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's come a long way. She's spectacular. Yeah.
Where, I've known her since she was 5 years old.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see. Yeah, it's amazing. If she isn't the next person from here to make it,
She will be, yeah.
It's crazy.
She will be.
She has to be.
Yep.
There was a spot in that match where she landed on her face or her head.
She landed directly on the top of her head.
What happened?
It was a arm wringer pull down. It's a face bump. I don't know if halfway through she just got caught on wanting to flip.
Because you had already did it
Yep.
previously
and she
in that
face-bumped
match.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep, right previously to that bump.
Yeah.
Got a great response from the crowd, so I thought, such a good crowd response, may as well do it again. Went for it again, and she just thought it was the flip, which she's used to,
Yeah.
arm wringer flip,
Yeah.
and got caught in between flip and face bump. Landed directly on the top of her head and pivoted. And you can look on the tape. I break character for a good fraction of a second, where I go.
Yeah.
I immediately pinned her, and I asked her if she was okay, and she went, "Yep."
Yeah.
The most chipper, upbeat "yep" I've ever heard. Yeah, and then we finished the whole match. She did everything. She did a superplex after that to me. She and with a concussion. That was her first concussion. That yeah. The concussion master given her first concussion to her. So yeah, she's tough as nails. She finished that whole match.
So you won the title from her in that match. When you guys went backstage, what did you say to her?
I thanked her. I asked her if she was okay. She said she was. And then I don't think I saw her again for another hour in the backstage. Yeah.
And then so you win the title. You had the title for over a year.
Yeah.
And during that run, you had some fantastic matches that I filmed against Travis Toxic.
Yeah.
There was a 3-way with Durning and
Scotty
O'Shea.
Yeah.
What are your I don't know, some great matches with the Dynamite Dylan Davis as well. What are your memories of that just over a year-long run with that title?
Blessed is the word. Legitimately blessed for every moment that I was given, every match, every opportunity, every opponent that was brought in or was local, or I fought Casey McKay in Bear River, and that was incredible. I fought Riddick Stone, and that was to me, that's that's cool. That's one of the guys who I watched him for a while. He's a giant. And that's the biggest man I've ever wrestled. Got to wrestle Charlie Winston. Got to wrestle
Carter Mason.
Yeah. Got to wrestle just a litany of people in the past year, and blessed that people put hope in me, put belief in me, put those opportunities in front of me. The fact that they trusted me enough to do what I wanted to do. So there was never an impasse put in my way. I was allowed to design my matches. I'm allowed to be the artist that I am. I'm free to my devices at that point, and that's a beautiful, fantastic situation to be in. That lit me up. It motivated me for a year. I felt fantastic. Every locker room was amazing. Every person that I shared it with was fantastic. Matt Angel I got to wrestle twice.
Oh, yes.
I'm beyond blessed for the fact that a year ago...
Chip Chambers, too.
My favorite opponent.
Yeah.
I will wrestle Chip for 1,000 years. If we can tag together someday as Chip Chambers and Covey Christ, C4, I'd be very pleased. A year and a half ago, I came through a curtain to nobody caring, and a year and a half later, I raised my hand, and I see 100 people in a crowd raise their hands back to me to do backhands, which who in the hell would ever throw their hands backwards at each other? And it's cool. I have kids throwing backhands. There's signs that's people with my shirts like that. That's cool. Yeah.
What are you and Chip had a match in Spryfield, last man standing match?
Yes, sir.
I also refed that. What are your memories of that match?
Gruesome. Lots of fun. Never had more pain in my abdomen in my life. When I landed the God Stomp and landed gut first across the top rope. That was the dumbest thing I've ever done in wrestling. Chip is tougher than anybody that I've been in a ring with. He is, I punched him in the face probably as hard as I could. And he just turned and punched me back. And that's not that's not a work punch. That was my hair was in front of my face and I didn't see where I was swinging. And we were on our knees and I clocked him and I felt bones move on my fist. And he just turned and punched me back. Blessed for that match. Blessed for the opportunity to do really dumb things.
Superplex to the floor.
Superplex to the floor. I learned a lot about pacing during that match, and about how to properly build the momentum for a crowd. We succeeded in 80% of what we wanted to do, failed in 20%, and he's such a badass.
Do you have a favorite memory or match of that run?
My match against Toxic is my favorite match I've had.
The one at the Forum?
Yeah. in that it was the best description of the athletic abilities that I have and have yet to been able to showcase. I am very subdued as a heel. I try my best to limit what I do in there so that I don't overshine a match. That was a match that I was allowed to. I wanted to backflip on that in my head a couple of times. Yeah. I wanted to take a reverse Rana. That was a thing I was obsessed with since I was like 14. Wanted to take it, so I took it. There's that match is what I've sent to every promoter since. It's saying, if you're looking for a high-end independent wrestler, here's what I can offer you.
Yeah, that I usually get a bunch of messages after every show, and everyone said that night they were all the same, saying that that match was match of the night. I don't even remember what the main event was, but that was. Oh, yes, I do. Because that's what made it so special. I think that was PJ Black and Marco.
Yes, it was.
And everyone said that your match was match of the night.
It means a lot, especially coming from like a 180-pound knacker. Like, I'm not a big man.
Yeah.
No part of me goes out there, and the same as Toxic. Like, he's not a big man.
You also had a cage match with Dynamite Dylan Davis.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that match?
That was my second cage match.
What was your first?
Dick Durning.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've had 2 cage matches this year.
What do you remember? I forgot about that. That was in Cape Breton, right?
Won both of them, too.
Yeah. What was your memories of the first one? Like, what did you go in thinking, okay, I'm going to be able to do this or this? Like, how did you put that together? Not ever having one before.
Listen to Durning.
Yeah.
He's experienced in those situations. And then I'm very confident when I break curtain. I'm very confident walking to a ring. The moment I touched that cage, literally shudders went down my spine. I was a kid. I was suddenly like 8 years old standing next to a cage going, oh, that's real.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actual steel.
Yeah.
Oh, tonight's going to fucking suck. Like, and that's all it was. It was, it hurts. It doesn't feel nice.
Yeah.
And that's all the crowd wants to see is the stuff that doesn't feel nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember getting back after the match more than I remember the match. I remember a big embrace. I remember.
Were either of those online? Because it wouldn't have been me. It would have been Mike if you went.
I don't believe. And both of them are gross matches.
Yeah.
I god stomped Dick Durning from the top of a cage and went through him.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it killed him. And I got a DVD from the top of a cage by Dynamite Dylan Davis in ours.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That should be on film somewhere.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And both of those are just like...
Anytime you could die, that shit should be on film.
Agreed. And both of them are learning experiences. I find... I'm not used to brawling style.
Yeah.
And that's something I have to develop in myself, is I believe I have a good punch, but I don't like to throw it a lot because it's a good punch. And if you throw a good punch, you shouldn't have to throw a bunch of them.
Right.
But cage matches are very brawly. And so I get lost being like, my forearms suck. What do I throw? Here's a kick to the gut and a back shot and a chop and a right to the eyes, and where am I going? And that's what I get lost in sometimes. So I learned a lot from both of those. Yeah.
You also worked for Outlaw Pro Wrestling on a couple of shows.
Yeah.
What are your memories of those?
I totally forgot about them. So none.
Two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have none.
You worked Dylan. I remember you and Dynamite always talk about wanting to go like a full hour in a match. And I remember that night you guys wanted to go 20, I believe, and you guys went I was timing it on my camera, and you guys went almost exactly 20.
Yep.
You don't remember?
Nope.
All right.
I remember. I just remember having a lot of fun in the ring.
Yeah.
Being silly. I don't really remember the shows all that well. They weren't super memorable. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Dana? Dana's the promoter.
I don't think I have any. I don't really know Dana all that well, other than Dana seems like the same as a collection of guys in the Maritimes who really, really, really love wrestling and want to be a part of it but don't know where they're supposed to fit. Want to have a role that is above the one that they've trained or practiced for, and seem to shoot themselves in the foot a lot with that behavior. And I don't think that that's a detriment to them as an individual. Like, I wrestle in one of Dana's rings and love it. I think Dana's a nice person. Like, I've never had a negative interaction. Like, he's never been a mean person or mean-spirited to me. He just
wrote after the last show that you would never work for
Never.
Outlaw Pro Wrestling again.
Never.
Why? If you haven't had negative interactions, why?
That was a PO issue
Okay.
prior to the show, and a very, as I said, I think people jump in over their heads. Dana as a person, I don't have issue with. Dana as a promoter, there's a little bit more of a, it's not really enjoyable to work for situation. It'd be the same as like Sean Nelson. I don't mind Sean Nelson the person, but Sean Nelson the promoter, I don't really enjoy working for because he doesn't seem to get what that is, and that's a little harder to work for somebody when you're like, nowhere I've worked does what you do.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? And they're like, because I do it. And you're like, okay, you're a child who just bought a toy and expects me to come over and be your toy to play with, and
Yeah.
I don't want to be a toy for somebody. That's all. I'm almost a 33-year-old man. I'm here to just make some money and enjoy my life.
You so if he was to run again, you wouldn't work for him?
Again, not that I wouldn't. It just Dana would need to prove to me that he is not booking this promotion, that he has somebody else doing it for him,
Right.
or there is some semblance of management put in place.
Yeah.
It's the same as a couple other promoters that ran where after their shows or after their tours, I've spoken to them and been like, if you don't get your shit together, I won't work again. But if you get your shit together, I like working. I like wrestling. I like being in a ring. So if you have a clean, healthy ring with clean, healthy workers, and you pay me accordingly, I'll probably show up. Those are my prerequisites.
You did the first Wrestle Nova Scotia
I did.
show. Did you do the second one
did.
the next year? Okay. I don't remember the second one. I was there.
Me and Dynamite Dylan Davis did a best of 7 series.
Oh, right. I do remember that now. Okay,
Yeah.
so when the promoter contacted you to do the Wrestle Nova Scotia shows the first year,
Yes.
there were supposed to be more shows than there ended up being. There was a show the first night in Mahone Bay that had 5 people on it.
Yep.
And there was a show, I reffed that night, and I reffed the next night too. And the next night in Windsor had like 18 people on it.
Yep.
Were you on the first one in Mahone Bay?
Nope. I was on the next two.
I didn't think so.
Yep.
So the ring they had the first night was horrible.
Heard.
Just so bad. The posts were like bent inwards, like it was like hitting the floor when I was counting 3. I couldn't imagine the guys bumping on it. Like my hand hurt, like just like counting.
That's a horror show.
And seeing Mike Hughes and Marcus Burke and Chip Chambers bumping that thing, I'm like, please stop. Like,
Yeah. Take care of your bodies. Yeah.
Burke could get his feet up on the top rope from like laying in the ring. That was the finish of one of the matches.
Oh my God.
It was amazing. Anyway, amazing in a bad way.
Yes.
But the next night they got Dana's ring or the Vision Pro ring or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the ring was better.
Yep.
So what are your memories of that show? You did a tag with Andre against somebody. I mean, Caitlin Diamond, I think, was here for that.
It was me and Andre versus Sabotage, I believe it was.
Yep.
And fine,
Yep.
easy.
You got along with the promoter, all right?
Yeah, I like Doug, yeah. I have no problems with. Again, he's another one of those guys who just gets in over his head and has really, really like a lot of love and desire for wrestling.
He does.
And I have a lot of as a guy who has a lot of love and passion for wrestling, I like people who also have love and passion for wrestling. There's a reason that I think you're one of the coolest dudes in Maritimes is you show up at every show to film it.
Oh,
and,
me.
Yeah, and I get the benefit of that, and you just do it because you love wrestling.
Yeah.
And to me, there's nothing cooler than to know that I have a little niece who's 2. When she's 16, she gets to have an entire history of Maritime Wrestling due to you. And that's cool to me that you've been around for my entire time here. Literally since I started in MWA, you've been...
It'll be 18 years for me this year.
18 years for me inside the ring. That time period you've been around for, that is cataloged for the next generation to look at. And that, again, to me, guys like Doug Robar, guys like Dana, the fact that he's building rings just because he loves rings, that's cool. And, like, I don't want to take that from him. I don't want him to think that I think he's a bad person because he builds... I think that's cool.
He makes a good ring, too.
Yeah, hell yeah, he does. It's the same as, like, hell, Devin Chittick.
Yep.
I rode with Chittick, and I thought, here's a guy... I say it to all the guys all the time. I don't waste my breath if I think you're a wasted cause. I will never say something to somebody if I think they're a garbage person who can't go anywhere. I wasted a lot of breath with Devin on our first, 4 road trips because I was like, everyone hates you. There's got to be value in you as a human being. I keep hearing bad things about you. Let's bring the value out of you. And Devin, unfortunately, I've just never had positive interactions with. But I can appreciate the fact that there's a guy who loves wrestling that much and has done it forever and has failed over and over and over, and in spite of his endless failure keeps going after it. So I can respect that.
Yeah.
I don't like the guy, but I can respect that. Yeah.
I think I'm one of the only guys that never had... I mean, I've been around for almost his entire career. Yep. He's never once done me wrong. We've gotten along, and I always say in wrestling, you can't treat people based on the way if someone else doesn't like him, doesn't mean you can't like him, because nobody else would like anybody ever, right?
Yep.
And I've always gotten along fine with him, but I definitely see sometimes why you might not like him, and that's totally fine. You had a completely different interaction with him, right?
Everybody's an individual, which is beautiful around here. Again, I've had negative interactions with a few individuals, very few in the Maritimes, and that's only my own interactions. And I say to all my friends, my interaction's not yours. You be friends with them, you do what you want. There's a couple of guys in the Maritimes who I'll shake their hand with a limp wrist. I won't even shake their hand as a man because I don't think of them as a man, and that's shitty of me. But that's how I deal with my own situations.
And then that first Wrestle Nova Scotia tour, the rest of the shows were canceled.
Yep.
A lot of people get upset, and probably rightfully so, that they were promised money. Like Caitlin Diamond's one of those people. She's got screwed a few times, unfortunately, coming up. I love Caitlin. Love her to
She's
death.
Incredible.
One of my favorite people.
Yep.
And she got screwed on She got screwed on the Beauty Slammers tour, she got screwed on the Wrestle Nova Scotia tour, and she got screwed on TCW. She's a firm believer that you're booked, you get paid, whether that tour gets canceled or not, because that's not her fault.
Yeah. Nope.
What are so the Wrestle Nova Scotia tour got canceled? Do you believe the same?
Yeah, everybody should have been paid. Yeah, 100%.
Were you?
Not the first one, no. Second one, I got paid in full prior to the shows.
And I knew he did that, and that was the smart thing for him to do the second time around.
Yeah.
Not only does it take stress off him during the shows, it's going to, I would assume, give him more motivation to promote the shows. 100%. I would think, because he's already out however many thousands of dollars by paying the roster, right?
Yep. Also,
and it's a good way to get back in your guys' good books, because you already have your money.
To me, I have never wrestled harder than when somebody gives me my PO prior to my match.
Yeah.
If you hand me an envelope prior to me working, if you've sent it to me prior to me going, you're getting the best out of me, because you've already paid me for my labor. I'm not one of those guys who's like, I'm already paid, I'm going to phone it. Yeah. No, you paid me. You're going to get the best of me now, because I want you to tell everybody else, pay that guy and you get the best out of him.
Yeah.
Nothing weirds me out more than going out and wrestling and wondering if I'm going to be light when I come back after my match, if there's going to be 20 missing from my book, if there's going to be 30 missing from my book. If that happens and I just had my match, now I want to fist fight a promoter. And
the only problem the only problem with that is you have guys like EC3, Robbie E, and that just don't show up after they get their money, and he was Brodus Clay in WWE. He did the same
Yep.
thing too. You get guys like that who take your money
Yeah.
and just don't come.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's the hardest part of an unregulated industry, and that's as promoters benefit from this being an unregulated industry,
Yeah.
and so they desire to continue to be unregulated so that they continue to make money.
I mentioned EC3 and
Yeah.
Robbie E because they did it here.
Yes,
Yeah.
if that's what I mean.
Yeah.
If the local promoters wanted to avoid things like that,
Yeah.
wrestling would be regulated and contracted.
Yeah.
They like it so that they can keep things light on people sometimes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, as a contracted wrestler, if I was contracted and exclusive to a promotion, I'd have to be paid appropriately.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when not contracted or exclusive at all, I can work where I want, when I want, and for whatever price that somebody's going to pay me according to my labor.
Right. It's independent wrestling, not contracted wrestling.
Yeah, that's why I proved that this year. I'm an indie.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
And so you also worked for, did you work for ACWA as well?
Yep, I worked ACWA and ECPW in Cape Breton.
What are your thoughts on ACWA? A lot of people, I mean, they always bring in somebody, but that ring used to be Peter Smith's ring, and that ring used to be amazing. It's not so much anymore.
It's a dead ring.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what are your memories of working there? And Alexander, or Narcissus Saint is the booker promoter, and Brendan.
I can remember Troy Merrick, one of my first matches. I'm terrified, and I go in the ring with Troy, American Patriot. He took care of me. It was a great match. Ropes were the worst thing that I'd ever been in my life. The top rope drooped down past the middle rope.
Yeah.
I remember Troy jumps up on the ring apron and goes, "Whoa!" and looks at me and he goes, "No ropes."
Yeah.
So our
like
whole
Steen
match-
worked Cabana in that ring. Like, it's awful. Chris Masters, you know? Like, what do you...
So, Cape Breton is my favorite place to wrestle.
Yeah.
Not just because I'm from there, but because it is... You can get 400 people out to a wrestling show in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And every one of them are loud and obnoxious and love wrestling. Cape Breton is spit on by a lot of people and not taken care of. It's abused or used. And so it's hard for me to go up there and wrestle. I will take any booking in Cape Breton ever.
Yeah.
Because it's my home and my family gets to see me. It's hard when those shows, especially like Member 2 Trading Convention Center is one of the most beautiful places in all of Canada to wrestle. That place is magical.
Mm-hmm.
And the right shows that went on there would be...
That was ACWA, right?
Brendan's promotion.
Yeah, ACWA.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is... Holy shit, gorgeous place to wrestle. And to me, would be one of the top places in all of Canada to run an indie promotion out of. It's just not taken care of enough. That's all. Yeah.
And Sheldon ran a couple of shows. He runs ECPW.
Yep.
He owned Cape Breton from 2007 to 2010. He stopped running, and he did magnificent up there.
Yep.
Packed crowds at the North Sydney Forum, 600, 700, 800 people. It was unreal. Had TV up there. You weren't wrestling then, but you
Nope.
did work for him this past summer.
Yes, sir.
What are your memories? There's 3 shows. There was at least 2.
I think I worked 2 of his shows.
2?
Yeah.
Maybe there's 2.
Yeah.
What are your memories of?
Sheldon's a very nice person.
Yeah. I wish he would run more.
My big issue with Cape Breton is that no one runs it.
Yeah.
They put on shows, but they don't run it.
Yeah.
So
He used to. It was
even 6 shows a year isn't running it. It like Cape Breton, and I know this as a guy who, as a kid, we had a weekly wrestling show every Saturday.
Yeah.
And after you left there, NWA in 2001, me, Matt Dalton, Johnny Beautiful, Jook, and Brent Clark became a division in Maritime Wrestling at that point. We promoted the show. We went out with pamphlets and flyers. We went to live music shows, to hockey shows. We dropped off flyers. We had 150 people a week showing up at our shows.
Mm-hmm.
That was a weekly thing. And for backyarders, like loser kids. Cape Breton can handle a monthly promotion or a bi-weekly promotion because we have many reserves on the island too. Cape Breton could handle steady wrestling. The sad part is when there's not steady wrestling happening up there, you get a lot of people who are just, they forget that it's an art form.
Yeah.
The whole art community up there doesn't think of it as an art form. So it's hard. Very, very, very good shows. He just, to me, I want 12 of them a year, you know what I mean?
Right. How often did Real Action on Cape Breton when you were up there? Because they used to do really well. Because I knew that. You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Because I know they were in Halifax every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what they did in Cape Breton too.
Don't remember the amount of shows. I just know they did very well. The
Yeah.
Forum sold out every time.
They did the reserves sometimes too, I believe. Escazone.
Escazone,
the
remember too.
Sarah Denny Cultural Center, I think. That place isn't that big, and I remember like 800 people being in that thing. It was unreal.
Yeah, and you will get that at every show if you
Yeah.
promote it properly. Cape Breton's, again, I love my island. I love every person there. I love the fact that even ACWA 2 years ago when I first showed up there, up in Member 2, they had almost 400 people to a show in Member 2 that was head up at Chris Masters. I was blown away, flabbergasted, a year and a half ago rather.
Yeah.
Blown away and flabbergasted that 400 people showed up for a terribly promoted show.
Yeah.
It was a booker who just books people and a promoter who puts stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, it's unreal. There should be, like, there's so much potential up there because you don't get anything else.
Nope.
Like, it could be the thing for Cape Breton.
Yeah, we have Screaming Eagles,
Yeah.
we have live music, and then nothing.
Yeah.
There's a huge gap.
But the Screaming Eagles aren't there all year. You
No.
know what I mean? Like, you could
and even
crush
then-
that place in the summer.
And even then, when the Eagles are there,
Yeah.
the Eagles are gone half the time on road trips.
Yeah.
You still need entertainment.
Yeah.
And the Eagles have never not sold out the center in like 10 years.
Yeah.
That's 5,000 people
Yeah.
desperate for entertainment. Again, Cape Breton's, it's the same thing I say about Halifax. Halifax is a population of 220,000 people. 1/10 of that population is guaranteed to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
If you're not getting over 2,000 fans to every show, you're doing something massively wrong to your promotion, because 1/10 of the population here is 20,000 people.
Yeah.
There's 25,000 wrestling fans who would pay to go see indie wrestling in Halifax. Somebody's doing a massive, massive problem in Halifax if less than 1,000 people show up to every show.
Here's a question I have. Maybe you can answer it, because I don't understand it. Because
Yeah.
if I was doing it, this is the way I would do it. Why isn't every single show promoted like the 2017 UCW anniversary show? Why isn't it all out all the time, getting 1,200 people or whatever it was,
Yeah.
to every single show,
No idea.
every single time? Why bother to run small shows? I get the VIP thing.
Yeah.
Why bother to run? They had Del Rio
Yeah.
in the back where you guys have the VIP
Oh,
shows.
I'm aware.
Why bother to not give it 6,000% every single time you run a show?
Couldn't tell you.
Ring of Honor sells what, 3,000 tickets
Yep.
every time they do a show. Why isn't every show promoted? Am I wrong?
No.
Should every show be promoted like it's the biggest show ever?
Yes. We have 3 universities here that have a rotating population of massive wrestling nerds that
Yeah.
no one fucking goes out and touches.
Yeah.
No one goes. I've said it for 3 years here. Why don't you drop a ring for free during Rush Week?
Yeah, we had. It's so funny you mentioned that, man. We tried to
20,000?
do that in like 2003.
20,000 people show up in
Yeah.
this city.
Yeah.
I guarantee you 2,000 of them are wrestling fans.
Yeah.
If you say, free mega indie wrestling show, here's all the indie wrestling stars
Mm-hmm.
in your area, and here's the big indie wrestling star from North America right now brought in.
Yeah.
Every one of them are stuck to you for the whole year.
That's so hilarious you said that. I've never heard anyone else suggest that before. Me and Tony
Yeah.
tried to do that, but the universities wanted nothing to do with it
Yes,
back then.
but you don't put it in
No.
the university.
Yeah.
You find a way.
We wanted to put it in the university.
So do we.
Yeah.
I've wanted to do it. Evolve Music Festival, same thing.
Yeah.
I talked to Evolve. They wanted it. The promotion didn't want to move the ring there.
Yeah.
Put a ring. So day 2 of the festival, you pull the ring out from underneath the main stage,
Mm-hmm.
set up the ring in front of the main stage. You put a little guardrail area around it, just with like ropes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You run the most colorful wrestling characters in the local Maritimes. Your
Yeah.
Tituses, your Chip Chambers, Covey Christ, people who can be around a bunch of hippies.
Yeah.
And you run it as colorful, high energy, flippy action, so that all these people who are high on drugs think that's the coolest thing they've ever seen.
Yeah.
You put a drone shot over top of that ring, and that solo drone shot of a huge stage with a live band and 2,000 kids dancing around your ring as the match happens sells your promotion for the next 10 years.
in the summer of 2001, Devin ran the Bridgewater exhibition. Not a single person there was for wrestling. There was about 3,000 people at the exhibition. 2,500 of them came to watch that mainstream wrestling show.
That's what I'm saying.
It was my first mainstream wrestling show. I was like, son of a bitch. This is amazing.
You'd be done
2,500 people. Yeah.
NSPW does it up in Rimouski every year.
Yeah.
2,500 people at a festival for like motocross or something.
Mm-hmm.
They set the ring up right after the strongmen leave. The wrestling ring comes in.
Yeah.
Every person there watches the wrestling event.
Mike does it every January with the Charlottetown Hockey Islanders at Red Rock Rocks. They had 2,000 people there last January.
Why would you not do it?
Yeah.
To me, anyone who doesn't do it is a lazy promoter who is not actually trying to promote wrestling. They're trying to make money off of it. And so they're not going into the community to engage the community, to get the community to be a part of their art.
Yeah.
They're just trying to siphon money off as quickly as possible.
Like, I've only done it a half a dozen times. But every single time I've done it, I've promoted it like it was WrestleMania.
Yes.
Like that's it. There was no, if I was running a monthly show, every one of those would be promoted as WrestleMania. If I was running weekly shows, every one of those would be, I would not stop. I would be promoting it as WrestleMania. So you don't know why either. Like, like why wasn't it?
Smash Wrestling is the one that I look at in Canada all the time.
Yeah.
As a promotion that runs all the time. And every one of their shows is run like it's a big show. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you why somebody locally isn't doing that.
Yeah.
I can just tell you for 2 years I've been pulling my hair out trying to ask for the ability to help out in that regard.
Yeah.
And I've never given it.
Yeah.
And being that the Maritimes has very stiff and stringent rules about who is allowed to book or not book or where you work or when you work or whatever's going on. I just sit back and let people do what they're going to do.
So strange. I never went through any of that. I mean, but to my own credit, I didn't think I knew what I was doing either. I was like, hey, Mike Hughes, Cowboy. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Make it good. Yeah. I'm like, he only changed like one or two small things, but those one or two small things like blew my mind. It made the show so much better than if I was doing it myself. And I also went to Cowboy. I'm like, okay, why did you do this? He's like, well, because blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
You learned a lesson from it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But him and Bobby Roode did my first show. Duke McIsaac, so Cowboy and Mike, Duke wasn't necessarily a veteran of the Maritimes then, but he toured full time with Real Action Wrestling for 2 years, had tons of matches. But Mike and Bobby were there. Neither one of them said, you can't book the show. They were like, what do you want me to do? And then I literally went, I want to do this. Is that okay? And because there was no way I was going to get Mike, you're doing this, you're doing that, which essentially as the promoter, I guess is my right or whatever. But there was absolutely no way that I was telling Bobby Roode and Mike Hughes what to do without their permission, without their input, without being like, is this make any sense whatsoever? Like my scribblings here in crayon, you know? Like,
be like me walking up to Sidney Crosby and being like, so I think you can score a goal like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
But and that's what I did.
I heard from a veteran recently that in their day, wrestlers ran the shows.
Yeah.
Promoters had money.
Yeah.
What you wanted, they were going to help you get done because you had the money, but you didn't get to push around wrestlers.
Me?
No, promoters.
Oh, promoters. Yeah.
You, promoters.
Yeah.
No promoter was going to get to flex on Brody Steele, Mike Hughes, and their crew. Nobody. Yeah. Gary Williams, Bobby Roode, Duke. Nobody's going to flex on those guys.
The guys that ran Real Action Wrestling, Brian Marchant and Warren Olson were the promoters. They were characters sometimes on the show, but Pete was the booker most of the time. I think sometimes Bobby or Mike. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure Pete was the booker for a lot of that.
And you weren't going to flex on those guys.
No, and they didn't try was the thing. They knew their role, right?
What we have a lot of today is a lot of wrestlers being okay with being flexed on.
Yeah.
And that's just a little different.
Yeah.
I got that message from one of the vets, and he was like, so, you got boys to stand with you? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, different than my day. I was like, yeah, I'm alone. Yeah.
Okay. So, before we get to the other thing,
Yeah.
your memories of working for New Breed Wrestling. You've done a few shows with them.
Amazing. I love
Andre's
Andre.
the promoter there.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I love Andre. Love the direction of his shows. I love the fact that he uses a mixed roster from the Maritimes. I love the fact that he is all about unity. I love the fact that his shows are fun. They're upbeat. They're silly. They're I like Andre. I would work for Andre anytime.
There was some controversy after one of the New Breed shows where a fan said you spit at them or spit on them or something along those lines.
I sure did.
What are your memories of that?
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
I was having a kid pull on my leg a whole bunch while I was on the apron.
Yeah.
And he kept coming up and hitting me and pulling on me. And twice I said under my breath, can you get your kid away from me, to his parents? And then I turned to the kid and said, if you touch me again, I'm going to spit on you. And he grabbed my leg, and I was like, shit, I made a dumb threat. Oh, crap, I'm a heel. If I don't do it now, oh, shit. And I spit, and I definitely hit that kid dead center in his sweater.
Yeah.
I vividly remember the look on his face and his parents' face, and then I turned around, about as embarrassed as I've ever been in my life. Not mad at myself or sad or anything, just embarrassed that I didn't have anything else to do. That as a heel, I lost control of myself.
Yeah.
And that should never be a thing that I do. I got in the back and heard from one of the vets that he kicked a mentally disabled person before on the way to a ring by accident.
Yeah. He pulled one out of a wheelchair one time, too.
And he was like, don't worry about it, kid. They'll forget.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That helps.
No.
That helps, yeah.
And the kid probably didn't care. Like,
No.
You probably made his night. Like,
Yeah, I heard it later on. Andre was like, the parents came up screaming.
Yeah.
And were like, we'll never
they sent
show
a
up at this
message
show
on
before.
Facebook, too.
Yeah, and they showed up at the next one.
Yeah.
And I shook their hands. I said that I was sorry. Like, it wasn't I'm not that person. Like, that's I lost control of myself and had no idea what I'm supposed to do. I learned a lesson. In the future, yell at the parents. Tell everyone in the crowd that's what bad parenting looks like.
Right.
Much easier than spitting at a child.
So,
Yeah.
in the Maritimes and probably a lot of other places, there's this thing that says if you work for said promotion, you can't work for other said promotion. And to be fair, not everyone in the Maritimes does this. It's been done a couple of times by various people since I've been involved. It went away.
Yep.
It's back now.
Yep.
One of the first people that it happened to, I guess, no, never mind. That didn't happen to her for that reason. I was going to say it happened to Madison Miles for that reason, but she left UCW for another reason.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on that she was leaving UCW, that she was no longer going to be a part of that company? It wasn't because she worked somewhere else.
I never talked to Madison about the situation, so I had no...
what were your thoughts
yeah.
that she wasn't going to be on the shows anymore? Because she's a huge draw. She draws great.
Again, business-wise, I never thought of it.
Okay.
Personally, it sucked that somebody that I really like and trained with and enjoyed being in a locker room with, somebody who I considered my sister at that point, was no longer around. That sucked.
Yeah.
I had no idea why she wasn't.
Yeah.
I assumed that it was a personal decision, and that was that. That was just a shitty thing to not have around anymore. Yeah.
Do you think she's missed on the shows? And I say this because the very first show she wasn't at.
Yep.
And I love Jasmine, love Ann.
Yeah.
Nothing against them. There's nothing they could do for this situation. As soon as those two were in the ring, there was a bunch of kids ringside that said, "We want Madison."
Yeah.
Who are these people?
Yep.
And Jasmine and Ann have every right to be on the show too.
Yeah.
But the fans love her.
Yeah.
So do you think?
The exodus of Madison was done without a story, so it becomes a hangnail for the crowd.
Right.
Because
Because they don't understand.
No, and when you introduce two new people with no story, no build, no concept, no construct toward anything, it is unfortunately going to befall on them what the promotion failed to do with the person who left.
Yeah.
So I felt bad for them being put in a situation that is almost impossible to succeed out of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sucks.
What do you think in general? We'll get to your situation in a second, but what do you think in general of not working somewhere because you work for somewhere else? I was always told, and I always ask almost everybody that comes through here this question, and they always give me generally the same answer, different words, but it generally means the same thing of if they're not paying 100% of your bills, you work anywhere that's going to pay you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the if you work for IHW, you can't work for UCW and vice versa?
The only rule that I ever have in my heart is if I don't believe in a promoter, I will not work for them. So if the promoter potentially has illegal activities they've done or stuff that I'm afraid of being associated with, I get sketched out and I avoid that promoter. That is just like a baseline for myself. Outside of that, work for any promotion that you want to. If they're going to pay you, you need to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
I need to pay for my rent. I need to pay for my power. I need to pay for my food. I need to pay for my supplements. I need to pay for my cats. I need to pay for all of my things. Wrestling is 80% of my income right now. If I don't get wrestling, when somebody takes bookings from me, that takes money out of my pocket, which takes food off my plate, which takes the roof out of my from over my head, and that's far less okay to me than the reasoning that they will give, which is like a brother, we gotta control who does what, brother, which I just don't agree with. I think if you're a good booker and a good promoter, no matter your roster, even if it's the exact same as the person next to you, you will do better than that promotion because you know how to write better stories, you know how to be more engaging, you know how to get the most out of your roster. If you're afraid that the person next to you has the same roster and is going to do better than you or do the same as you, then you aren't doing a very good job as a booker. You're relying on the fact that your roster's different. And I think that's lazy booking and lazy promoting. I think that's relying on workers to do all the work for you at that point.
Yeah, I always think that the second you stop worrying about what you're doing and start paying attention to the guy next to you, that's when you go down.
Oh,
you need
lost.
to focus on whatever you're doing 100%, pay no attention to anyone else,
Yep.
and just focus on your own business.
And UCW did an amazing job last year
of
not paying attention outside and around them. Like JP Sims worked for IHW and UCW.
Yep.
Chip Chambers, IHW, UCW. Jasmine Hawks, Anne, both promotions.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, there didn't seem to be any issue whatsoever.
Did they work for both promotions in Moncton? I don't think so.
Anne and Jasmine, 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe they did. Okay.
100%. They
Okay.
worked both IHW and UCW in Moncton.
Okay.
My signing originally with IHW to take dates was with the preclusion that it would never be within a few weeks of a UCW date, so only upon availability. So I was never going to be booked within the same town within the same couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I had an A-OK to do so. So that was my my situation. I did that. I took those dates because, again, to me, working Brody Steele, Mike Hughes, Titus, Charlie Winston, like those are guys that I don't get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Of course I'm going to go there and get those matches. I've only had 2.5 years experience. To me, before any of those guys decide to tie up their boots or hang them up or whatever, I've got to get matches against them.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise I can't hold myself in standing as a man of honor in this area of Canada.
And even being in the locker room with them to learn. Like,
oh, absolutely.
As well, like,
I've shared locker rooms with them, and I've learned from them. I learn under them, and I never spent a moment in a locker room with either of them without picking up a nugget.
Yeah.
So, or any of them, sorry, not just either of them. So to get to work them is going to be a much different situation.
Yeah.
And again, growing for me. So to lose bookings because I wanted to grow as a person was harmful.
So you didn't work for IHW previously. It had nothing to do with the you can't work for me, you
Nope.
work for them. They just didn't book you.
No, it was Kevin Tyler. Me and Kevin Tyler do not like each other,
Okay.
and so Kevin Tyler wasn't booking me.
Okay.
The moment Kevin Tyler was no longer with that promotion, I was waiting to get contacted. I thought that a promotion would contact me. Peter and I have spoke a few times in the locker room. One point in time, he floated to me that they would have people over if it wasn't for a situation, and I told him flat out that I'd recently been told that situation didn't exist, and so we decided upon getting toward discussing about getting into that promotion.
Okay. And you went and you took the bookings.
Oh my, yeah.
You took the bookings under the impression that it was all right with UCW, that they weren't going to not use you anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, 110%. Yeah.
How did you find out that they changed their mind?
As soon as IHW made a post about having Covey Christ on the roster, I was immediately fired from UCW.
Did they say why?
That IHW was now using me.
Did you ask what happened to the agreement we had?
Yeah, there's a lot of...
You don't have to go into detail, obviously.
There's just
but
a lot of political talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of brothers and a lot of brothers and a lot of, oh, he said this, and then you talk to the other person, they go, oh no, they said this, I didn't say that, and a whole lot of no one owning up to things.
Yeah.
No man saying, yeah, I did it,
Yeah.
and you're not allowed here.
Yeah.
A whole lot of people going, oh no, it's his. Oh no, it's him. And to me, that's whatever. I just got no time for it. And it's not that I wouldn't work for anybody again. It's just I got no time for being lied to or having people yank chain. That's all.
do you think something was already happening because they took the belt off you?
No.
Or do you think that was just they were just taking the belt off you?
No, they were definitely taking the belt off me. Just like Dylan had built up for.
So there were
for
still
a
plans
year.
to use you in the future?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Last I had discussed with them, we had a very strong 2019 for me.
Yeah.
I'm undefeated in UCW in a year.
Yeah.
I haven't been pinned, so I imagined, and from our conversations, we had a very strong year developed. So again, I didn't expect them to cut ship so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on now getting? Oh, you mentioned it, but your first IHW show is March,
February 2nd.
February 2nd.
Yeah. Hubcap Comedy.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Are you excited?
Super excited. Yeah. I'm kind of like 2.5 years ago. I believe that I'm one of the best. I believe that I am on par or better than the best that they have in that roster. And I get to prove it because I've never been in the ring with those people. So no matter the size of the individual, how big they are, how strong they are, how legendary they are, how many matches they've had, how far they've toured, how many countries they've seen, the beauty of this situation is I get to actually prove that I'm just as good. That's an exciting portion of 2019.
All right, we are now at the fan question portion of this show.
Woo!
Here we go. I haven't read these yet, but they're coming in strong.
Exciting.
I gotta do this live someday.
Yes.
I'll set my phone up.
Live streaming, yeah, they're all ticking through.
Yeah. From Tyler Langell, who some of these aren't written out correctly.
Makes sense.
Who is your dream opponent in a wrestling match? Well, let's say locally, and then let's say mainstream as well, that someone would know.
Locally, it's Mike Hughes right now is my dream opponent, and that has been for probably 12 years. Like that's the one person that I have to have a match against, and that's a no ifs ands or buts. Mike's a pillar of Maritime wrestling, so that would be my local choice. Tyson Dukes would be my other choice. My international, anywhere in the world would be
Okay.
Tyson Dukes. if I could go back in time, it'd be Mitsuhara Mitsuha. I'd love to wrestle Misawa in 98, 99. Those would be dreams.
Dave Boyce, will you ever shave your beard off again?
Never. Worst decision.
Why did you shave it? It made you look like 12 pounds lighter. I was like, what's going on?
It's the worst. It was a mistake. I was just trying to trim my beard. I didn't want to go in and pay for it. And I messed up. Messed up bad. Never again. Bad decisions.
This one's from Tieran. And Lincolnstein says this question should be a standard question for every human.
Yeah!
So here we go. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
One horse-sized duck?
Yeah, or 100
duck-sized horses? 100 duck-sized horses. Because ducks are scary enough as they are. They've got a screw penis that's horrifying. And a horse-sized duck with a screw penis is the scariest thing I've ever heard. So tiny little horses seem like they'd be pretty easy to boot around. They bite. They don't really have any other offensive weapons, you know?
I need to see a picture of this horse-sized duck. Tyrion, draw me a picture, quick. This next one's from Nick Bungay. Could Jesus himself have a backhand so big he couldn't slap it?
As Jesus is my son, I can tell you, Jesus does not have big hands. But he is my son, and he definitely will backhand people. Yeah, it's kind of his thing.
Lincolnstein says, he's all over this. Lincolnstein says, I will not contribute to what likely will be a multiple day long video.
This is true. This is true. This could be an 8-hour long interview.
We're up 2.5.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think. This one would be a little longer than that one, but it's right around there.
I was expecting it'd be nighttime before we
I haven't had anyone break. Gary's done 2 3.5 hour ones. It was funny. Gary's first one I thought would go a while. The second one, he contacted me to do it because he just wanted to talk wrestling, right? I'm like, I don't have anything to ask him though, because he hadn't done as much in the previous part of his career as he'd done to this one. So I started writing out the questions, and then I got 8 pages later. I'm like, apparently I've got something to ask him. And we went 2 3.5 hour interviews with Gary. Yeah. So I want to do another one with him soon because he's so smart and so I just love talking to him about wrestling.
Been around forever too.
Yeah.
Knows everything.
And he's been all across Canada. Next question by Vance Bizanson. Yeah, that's how you say his name. If you were in charge of booking, what changes would you make in general to Maritime wrestling rosters and shows?
0 exclusivity limitations would be my main change, and then I would book shows the same way as I see a few of my other favorite promotions, which is having 8 or 9 different people that could contend for your main title at any given time, as opposed to one single person who looks like they're bigger than everybody. I think Maritime Wrestling gets stuck a lot on a single large champion for a long period, and the people who come up to challenge it are very limited, and so we end up with a limited scope of who actually is valuable here, as opposed to I think of myself as a potential champion in any promotion who could carry the entire promotion on his shoulders. So give me the opportunity to do that, and I could probably do it for you. If you never give me the opportunity, it's really hard for you to ever say that I couldn't do it. But a lot of guys limit people and then say that they never could do it, and we get a lot of that around here. So I'd stop that. Smash Wrestling has 9 people who can contend for their title at any point.
Right.
I don't think there's one contender for UCW's title other than Marco Estrada and Marcus Burke, and that's harmful.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think there's one contender for IHW's belt outside of Titus and Mike Hughes, and that's harmful. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that as a rip on the individuals. I mean that all those people are fantastic wrestlers, and the reason that they're in that spot.
Yeah.
But I think you need to build other people around,
right,
so that
And it stops you from seeing the same match over and over and over.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, I totally get it, but I hate it, the old, like, Grand Prix way of promoting. Like, because I saw the same show 95 times.
Yep.
Like, and I get it. It's easy for the guys to get their matches and stuff together.
Yeah.
But as me going to film, I'm like, please be something different.
Please. Yeah. So that would be my two big
I could be like,
changes.
okay, this is coming, then this is coming.
Oh, and you could call spot for spot.
Yeah.
I hate watching some people now because I'm just like,
Shane Wilkie. I'm assuming you're going to get this because I don't necessarily know who this is. Shane Wilkie says, does Covey fear what will happen when he crosses paths with Keep Doom and the Wrecking Crew?
Never. Keith Doom and the Wrecking Crew are a bunch of...
Has a page on Facebook.
Yeah, they're a band from Cape Breton.
Oh, okay.
They're a bunch of spoiled upper middle class Nancy boys who did too much nutmeg when they were 15. And God love all of them, but I'll beat all their skinny knacker arses.
So people shouldn't go like Keep
No,
Doom and the Wrecking
definitely.
Crew?
They're an
Okay.
amazing band.
I will not link that.
Amazing band. Great kids. Just a bunch of kids that'll beat the arse off of.
Kevin Poirier, who has been your biggest inspiration in maritime wrestling?
Oh, that's a good question, Poirier. My sister and my niece would be my biggest inspirations. Yeah.
I think he means in the scene.
Yeah. No, that was
It's the same?
Yeah,
Okay.
bar none.
Why?
My sister paid for my wrestling school.
Okay.
She moved to Windsor to help me do it. She shows up at every one of my shows. Her 2-year-old little daughter does my poses in the crowd. She, if I say Marco Estrada to her, she's 2 and she goes like this.
That's awesome.
So yeah, those are my motivations.
Awesome.
The fact that they live in Halifax and I might not be able to wrestle in front of them this year, that's hard. That's hard. Yeah.
Jason Langell, what is the best match? What do you consider the best match of your career, and do you think the Maritimes should have more or less promotions?
Ooh, more well-booked promotions could still do well here. Cape Breton's not doing, doesn't have steady promoting up there, so they could do very well. Halifax can still deal with another promotion here and do very well. There's enough wrestling fans. What was the first part of that question?
What do you consider the best match of your career?
I don't think I've had it yet. So I
You
can't-
mentioned Chip Chambers.
Chip's one of my favorite wrestling opponents. Dynamite's one of my favorite opponents.
Yeah.
Cody Blade, I've yet to get to.
Or Travis Toxic, sorry, not Chip
Travis
Chambers. You
Toxic
mentioned that match.
is the match that I send everyone.
Yeah.
My Space Monkey match is a joy.
Yeah.
I've had tag matches that are a joy. Me and Justin Newhook worked an NWE match that is a fucking, like, one of my favorite matches. I don't think I have a best match yet because I don't think I've had my best yet. I don't think I'm even close to having shown people what I'm capable of in a ring. Yeah.
Connor Smith asks, at this point in your career, who are the top opponents you want to wrestle? You kind of said that earlier.
If I'm just gonna go in Canada, it's Tyson Dukes, Daniel Garcia, who just got into a bit of a car accident, pretty serious one actually.
That's insane.
Yeah, Daniel Garcia is a big one for me. Sebastian Suave, Aiden Prince. I've across Canada. There's a large list. Sue Grayson, Evil Uno, Walking Weapon, Josh Alexander, Ethan Page. Like I probably have a list of like 30 people that I have to hold in Albright that I have to face before I hang things up, or I won't know where I stand. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Who's the best wrestler you've ever seen?
Ever.
Ever.
Mitzwa. Period. I've never seen a guy who can wrestle every single style and engage 70,000 people into believing that it's real. A guy who could do lucha and make you believe it was a real spot. A guy who could forearm you and make you think he took your head off. Like that, I could watch every one of his matches forever.
Your thoughts on the effort a pro wrestler needs to have in the gym getting properly trained and getting booked other places?
If you aren't properly trained, you're not a wrestler. You're a guy in tights. I will never, ever consider people who are not properly trained or did not properly seminar or did not properly learn under a person who is properly trained to be trained wrestlers. They are guys in tights.
It's a movie, isn't it?
Yeah, Men in Tights, yeah.
Oh, Men in Tights, right.
And you have to learn that. Gym is, if you're not an athlete, you're not a wrestler. And like I say this as a 180 pounder. I'm not a giant guy, but I deadlift over 400 pounds. I squat over 3. I bench over 2. I'm a strong 180 pounds. I lift every day of my life. I live inside of a gym. I mean, it's literally
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. It's my living room. So instead of having a living room, I have a gym.
I'm actually jealous.
It's I played sports my entire life. 18 years as a goalie, 9 years ultimate frisbee. Like if tomorrow wrestling stopped for me, I would still be playing other sports.
Right.
So if you're not an athlete, I don't think you'll have a good time wrestling, because wrestling is the most athletic thing ever. Mm-hmm. You have to fight and not harm somebody.
Right.
That is horrifyingly hard to do. And I don't think most people understand just how difficult that is, or how scary it is that you have to trust a human being with your life. And if that person isn't trustworthy, your life is in danger. And that's why those two things are so important to me. If you're not strong enough to hold me, you're not strong enough to lift me, you're not strong enough to do the move to me, I'm scared because I'm upside down now.
Yeah.
So yeah, just...
People don't get how easy it is to get dropped on your head with doing what you guys do.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. I've been in the ring twice this week and watched 3 guys drop themselves on their heads trying to do split-legged moonsaults. So, yeah, rings are scary.
Your thoughts on the support the fans give you and give Maritime Wrestling in general?
I am very fortunate for what Maritime Wrestling fans are, because we are a low-income area in Canada. We are not a have area of Canada. The fact that we have more fans than most other areas of Canada when we don't have as much income is remarkable. To watch a whole family scrape together money for the one thing they get to be entertained by is cool as shit. To know that family is entertained by me,
and they travel
blows me
everywhere. It's crazy to me.
The messages I received in the past month were remarkable, and so like, yeah, I'll weep a little bit as a loser, but like that's
that's awesome.
That's why I do it. I have fun, but like in the same way as like the past 2 days, like I said, I was at the ring and I'll be there again tonight. I'll get as many matches this year as I want to have in front of nobody, and I'll have a lot of fun doing it, and I'll have those matches against anybody that I want to wrestle in that training school. Nobody can take that from me, but the ability to be in front of those people, like the Frotton family, like it's beautiful to me to watch a little kid come up and backhand.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, yeah, you think I'm cool? That's weird. I don't know why.
And they drove to Quebec too, didn't they? It's insane.
They drive to like every
It's
show.
so amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing. Like, and Shelley Brown travels everywhere all the time. Like,
Shelley is
crazy.
Again. Shelley is Cape Breton in a nutshell too. Shelley is the Cape Breton spirit, and like again, people make me cry because I have never witnessed beauty given to me that way by people who aren't related to me.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Travis Toxic, but if you could put one match on a DVD to show someone what you do, what match would it be? Would that be the match?
Yeah, the Toxic match right now would be the Monkey match, if it was available, would also, but it's unavailable. Nobody will ever see it.
Yeah.
Jason Mosier will never release that to the world. So.
Did that not air?
Nope.
It didn't air on the TV show.
Nope.
Oh. What was the last one that aired?
Don't know.
I don't remember.
But he won't release it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, won't let me have it.
Jason, come on, buddy. I just did you not? Did he contact you to do the documentary?
Oh
No?
God, no.
No?
No. Our last conversation, I told him never talk to me.
I did it. It was actually really well done.
Oh yeah, I had no qualms about whatever he does in life. Just our last conversation was anything but positive, and so again, if I'm a man of principle, if you're not willing to apologize to me for an issue, I probably can't move forward with you.
The issue was he didn't see you were. You told me, but I can't remember what it was.
Long story about him booking a mentally disabled person to make fun of JP Sims,
Right.
And him not enjoying the fact that I was me. I'm going to tell people very honestly how I feel about a situation and hopefully help them find their lives outside of whatever this is, because wrestling's not a place for everybody.
Who do you think is the best wrestler in the Maritimes right now?
I don't know. Dick Durning's retired, so I don't know. Dick Durning would be the guy that I would.
You can say Dick.
Yeah, Dick Durning would be the person that I would say.
Yeah.
I would claim Dick Durning to be the best wrestler in the Maritimes, yeah.
Do you think he'll ever come back? Dick? He's so good. He's so there's less than a handful of people. This is really like two of guys that I say I wish would go away and never come back. And I mean that people are like, "What are you talking?" Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just mean like, just if everyone was 100%. I wish they would leave and never come back. And people are like, "What are you talking about?" I wish Titus and I wish Dick Durning would leave, go to another country, show up at NXT. And never come back here unless it was with WWE or Ring of Honor or whoever. Those two guys make me sad that I'm not watching them on television every week.
Both of those guys are guys that I said like 2.5 years ago when watching. I said the only reason that they never did anything was somebody failed in the Maritimes.
Yeah.
To me, there's Scott. The beauty of Scott D'Amore in Ontario is Scott D'Amore. Not only does he have contacts, but he has a fucking brilliant eye for talent. And when he sees somebody like Congo Kong, Osiris was not really going anywhere before Scott saw something in that guy and developed a great character. And his career skyrocketed because of it. Mm-hmm. Bobby Roode, when Scott got his claws into him.
Yeah. He was always better than everybody, and then finally.
Yes, that's Scott just, he sees something, and he goes, "Oh my God, Rhino."
Yeah.
Oh! Yeah. We don't have somebody here who their life is investing in others.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people whose lives are investing in themselves. But
do you think that's because there's no spotlight here? Nobody knows we exist?
No. That's how you build it. There was no spotlight on Windsor, Ontario before Scott built it.
No, but there was in Ontario in general.
Not that area, though. Southern Ontario was dead. Doug Chevalier was running in front of like 100 people. Like, that was max and like garbage wrestling. Scott, Doug Chevalier, James Trepanier.
I just mean like people know Ontario exists as a place. You ask people in Maine, they don't know what Nova Scotia and New Brunswick is.
But I don't think it has to do with knowing where we are.
Yeah.
There's, especially in the age that we have now, with the internet and stuff, you can get anyone's information out to anyone anywhere. We have the fans that are already here. That we already have 500 people showing up to a show. To me, 500 people at $10 a head is $5,000 for that gate. Mm-hmm. Tickets are more than $10 a head.
They're like 25.
There's $5,000 minimum at that gate.
Yeah.
There's only about 15 going out to the boys. So where's 35 going?
Yeah. that
should be reinvested into making sure that there should be 10 guys from the Maritimes touring Canada as professional wrestlers permanently.
I agree 1,000%. Couldn't agree more.
I know 10 of them that I could name that I could hop in 2 carloads or 2 minivans, and we could drive through the States and never have a weekend off for an entire year.
Yeah. That's what the guys like the Hardy Boys and CM Punk and Colt Cabana and all those guys did back in the day.
Because you had to.
Yeah.
But now you can stay at home and use the internet and get yourself over as much. Eli Everfly. He just wrestled for WWE and pinned The Miz on TV. And he did that all just off of Instagram. Yeah. That kid doesn't weigh more than 150 pounds.
Yeah.
That's what we could do now, if look at the Buffalo brothers, the Buffalo boys. They care for each other, work together, and they have a really dedicated, passionate two veterans in Kevin Bennett and Pepper Parks, who are pushing all of those kids to getting all the exposure in the world. I think that's needed locally a lot more. Guys who don't just want to profit off of people, but want to help people profit.
Do you have any aspirations to... You've worked here, you've worked Quebec, you've worked Ontario.
Yep.
Do you have any aspirations to getting booked in like bigger promotions in the States or overseas, like England or Puerto Rico, Germany?
Yeah.
Those types of places?
Big
Mexico?
time. Big time.
Are you like working towards that?
My goal last year was to become good enough in a ring that I could show up anywhere and wrestle their best. Now I believe that I'm there. I've contacted a crap load of promotions in the States. I have potential northeastern United States tours coming up in the spring. And fingers crossed, hopefully overseas will be opening up very soon. I'm looking at the UK right now, and my big goal is Asia. I would like to be in India, I'd like to be in Japan, I'd like to be in China. Those are all places I want to wrestle, I want to see, I want to get to experience those cultures. And that's all, those are things that I need. Again, not wants, they're needs.
What do you think about, I don't know if anybody does it anymore, but years ago, people would just leave, go, show up, mop the gym floor with the hope, with no aspiration, with the goal of getting booked, but with they're there, with people have no idea who they are, they're just there to show up and hopefully someday get booked. Why do you think people don't do that anymore? Or at least as much?
I know one who does. Buck Gunderson in Ontario did that for the Kaientai dojo in Japan and got booked.
A lot of them do it for, used to do it for Tajiris and the F1, F0, F1? F1?
Which I was very impressed with. But,
0-1.
It's 0-1, yes.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, F1 racing.
Yeah.
I don't think most people do it now in the same reason that most people don't leave home to go get trained. Because I think most people have an expectation of convenience. Like I went away to Scott's school with $800 in my pocket and a garbage bag of a hockey bag of clothes. I showed up there, and for 3 years of being in Windsor, I did every ring setup, I did every ring teardown, I did every show for Scott. I drove to Michigan for shows for big time wrestling in Michigan. Primetime wrestling in Michigan, and I set up and tore down rings for all those promotions. None of that was to get booked. None of that was to make a dime. That was because that's what you did. You showed up at Scott's school. The moment you showed up, you grabbed a broom and you swept out the ring. If you didn't sweep out the ring, you weren't wrestling in that ring. If you didn't wipe off your feet, you're not stepping in the ring. I don't know why more people... Like, I've told so many people that I meet locally.
Like, Madison's the only one that does it. I mean, she's booked before she goes, but she's the only one that's traveling outside of, like, Mike and Pete. I meant, clearly when I'm saying this stuff, I don't mean Mike, Pete, like the veteran guys. I'm talking about the newer guys. So she's the only one that's, see ya, and is gone, right?
Madison's in a league of her own right now when it comes to what she's doing. A lot of guys...
Suave, to an extent, has done it as well.
Yeah. A lot of guys need to take themselves more seriously. And so that includes less spending your money on things that don't need to be there, less on your clothes, less on your drinks, less on your cool new shoes that you got, less on your car, less on your show that you went to, less on the band that you want to pay attention, less on all those things. Put a couple of bucks aside and you'll have $1,000 suddenly. Pay for a trip over to the UK and just go visit a couple of promotions and just be like, I'm trained in Canada, I got my gear with me, if you need somebody on the show. Suddenly you get 3 bookings in the UK. They may not be the best things that you've ever had, but you can say that you're an international wrestler.
And they could lead to something else.
It also changes how people perceive you locally.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, Troy's a great example of that. Troy, years ago when he went over there, it was contact made, going over, kept it for years, and still has the contacts. That's what you need to do.
I mean, when Eric Suave came back with those 3 belts,
Yep.
it perceived him as being a huge international superstar.
It changed his career.
Yeah.
It's another reason why I believe it is so important for people to be able to have the freedom to work where they want to work is Burke made a lot of very intelligent moves toward being around the right people to get him to the right places, and that increased what he was worth to promoters.
Mm-hmm.
He went from just another wrestler on a show to being one of the most important wrestlers on a show.
Yep.
If I'm 6 months of international bookings away from being one of the most important people in the Maritimes, then I'll get my 6 months of international bookings and I'll be the most important person in the Maritimes.
What are your thoughts on the way social media has affected pro wrestling? Not any given day now, from any promotion anywhere in the world, you can see people arguing over Facebook. Do you remember the days when like Ric Flair and Harley Race argued over Facebook? Like,
Yeah, it's great.
Like everywhere. Like I'm in groups for probably 90% of the promotions in Canada, and it happens in all of them.
Now, are we talking shoot fighting or kayfabe fighting? Which one?
When you're actually arguing with like people.
Like, are we talking characters working their characters or people?
That's just as bad. But but I mean like real life, like I hate your wife's stupid.
Yeah,
Like,
or two promoters bitching about somebody.
Yeah.
No time for it.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine just messaged me about it 2 days ago because two promoters are in some sort of Facebook war about him.
Yeah.
Because they both want him because he's
Yeah.
a very good young wrestler.
Yeah.
And he's incredibly kind, naive to a point of his kindness.
Yeah.
And they're both trying to bend and manipulate how he views the other promoter.
Oh yeah.
And so he's messaging me going, "Oh, did I do wrong?" And I'm like, "No, fucking ignore both of them.
Yeah.
They're only benefiting financially from you being confused and thinking you have to be with either of them.
Yeah.
Work wherever you want to work. You're an independent wrestler. If anybody ever tries to clip your wings on that, tell them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, they don't get to."
Thoughts on wrestlers coming in, or even just locally, saying that they don't want to lose or can't lose? Because an example I always use is because the guy Bruce Willis kills and dies, it kills and die hard isn't going to come up at the day of the set. Can't chuck me off that building
Yeah,
today,
sorry,
Bruce.
boys. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Can't do the job.
It's gonna kill my character.
Because to me, it's
long-term.
the same thing. It's a live action movie. Like,
So this is the twofold of it.
yeah,
The guy Bruce Willis throws off the building at the end there is never used in another movie. That character's dead.
yeah.
So I
But that's
understand.
his part.
Part or not,
Yeah,
we're not as wrestlers.
Yeah.
We're not. The actor plays multiple roles.
Okay.
As a wrestler, we only play one role.
yeah,
That's the issue that people run into. So like Tom Cruise playing the same character in 8 different Mission Impossibles, they have to book him properly for all of those. Tom Cruise will show up on set and be like, "No, that doesn't make sense,"
yeah,
because there's a long-term projection for the character. So in wrestling, I do understand there are times to protect yourself or your character. So if I book Brody Steele for a show and ask him to job to Kimba, probably going to get a big no.
Brody Steele hasn't won a match in like 10 years in the
To
Maritimes. Yeah.
To Kimba.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask him to lose to a 120-pound kid who doesn't hit the gym and doesn't know very many offensive maneuvers.
Right.
He's going to say, "No, unless here's the only way that ever makes sense.
Yeah.
Bunch of guys come out and attack me, or
Yeah.
some sort of roll-up out of nowhere. I beam myself off of something. I'm sure he can make it work. But he's going to protect his character
Yeah.
because financially, if Brody Steele gets pinned by 3 small little knackers in a row in 10 seconds, he's not worth that much locally anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a really weird part of our job, is you do kind of have to protect yourself. And I don't mean that in a way of like, not doing the job. Like, that should never be a thing. But a promoter also should never put workers in a position where their financial worth can get taken away from them. That should also be a thing that is I think those both work together. So if I show up at a job and somebody's like if I'm working at the superstore suddenly, and I show up at the superstore and my job is to do cash, and they ask me to go clean the back lines out, I'm not going to do that. It's not my job. I'm not trained to do it. I'm not going to do that for you.
Yeah.
So I can understand both sides of it, from the promoter side and the worker side, from the fan side as well. All of it sucks because we are we're in an unregulated industry, so until you get regulation, it's really hard.
I've reffed a match one time between two people. One of them did not want to lose. Hadn't had the problem losing to the other one. He didn't want to lose.
Was this mid-match going on?
No.
Okay.
This was beforehand. And he said he didn't want to lose. And he's like, do we have to have a finish to this match? Can it just be a schmoz?
Yep.
The other guy said, you can pin me for a 10 count for all I care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The guy that went under was more over in that match than the guy that went over.
Which you can book your matches properly.
Yeah.
Again, it's about, like I said, with the Brody Kimba situation. If Brody loses to Kimba, he can still get himself over because he's an intelligent man. But there are situations that the way you book your match is how you protect yourself. So,
and there's been people that have come here that have agreed to come here to lose, and then they get here and change their mind.
Yeah, and I again, the business that this thing is I don't understand 90% of it, because it's a bunch of weird egos grinding against each other. Again, I just really like rings and wrestling. Yeah. So if you tell me I'm losing, I'm losing. If you tell me I'm winning, I'm winning. Yeah. If you tell me I got a belt, I got a belt. If you tell me I don't have one anymore, cool. No part of it changes me. Yeah. I'm still the same wrestler. Yeah, I don't know. Unless somebody...
I get a lot of that from Chris Jericho, who's like the world champion but has never won a match. You know what I mean? Like he's I don't know how many matches he's had, but I bet you he's won like 1% of them.
I got pinned by like a 12-year-old kid last year at a birthday party.
Kenny Omega worked a 6-year-old girl or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I don't think it is impossible to come back from these things. Yeah. Like but it is it all depends on how you execute your art form. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you would like to discuss?
No, I can't think of anything other than throwing out massive thanks to everyone in the past 2 years who has helped me, supported me, drove me to shows, booked me, to the entire Halifax community for being at a ring with me, the entire New Brunswick crew for training with me and getting my ring rust back off, to all of my brothers and sisters that I get to contact and call on a daily basis that I didn't have 2.5 years ago. Yeah, big thanks. Big thanks to yourself for doing all these things. Yeah.
No problem. Do you have any closing comments for any fans, family, or friends that may be watching this?
Again, just thank you. I never expected to be in the position I'm at, so a million thanks to everybody for giving me that opportunity. Yeah. Where
can we see you compete next?
I'm in IHW on February 2nd in Moncton February 1st, sorry. That's the first Lions Club. And then I fly out to Ontario on the 9th for Seaway Valley Wrestling.
First class?
They better be first class. And I'm out there I have 7 shows in 2 weeks in Ontario.
That's amazing. For who?
Crossbody Pro Wrestling.
Oh, Ben.
For Big Ben.
Ben used to live in my closet. No joke. Ask him.
This is ridiculous.
I know Ben super well.
I've been bugging Ben for a bit.
He lived out here.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Ask him about living in my closet and eating chicken under the door.
I'm so excited. I'm glad we have conversation points to start with.
Super nice.
I'll be like, hey, Ben, remember your lowest? No.
But ask him about climbing up the outside of an apartment building. I'm not even joking. Like, what, you should be writing this stuff
He's
down.
too big for that.
He did it. He climbed
Like
up.
King Kong?
Yeah, he climbed up from they lived on like the 4th or 5th floor. He forgot his keys. He climbed up people's balconies till he got to the top. No joke. He was like 18 at the time.
This is going... Yeah, I work for
And
him.
the girl from Dairy Queen. I'll give you a cheat sheet of
Please
stuff
do.
to talk to Ben about.
I work for PWA for 2 shows again,
Yeah.
so Easy Air Carns.
Yeah.
And then I work Courage Pro Wrestling has me up as well. And then Seaway is the promotion that I'm up there that's doing me the big. They're bringing me in to wrestle Ryan Donovan. Got a big program there with him. Like I said, great young wrestler, a lot of talent. He's just a little bit of a lost puppy who needs to get the shit kicked out of him. That's all.
Well, this interview was one that I've been looking forward to the most. I actually asked you to do it a while ago, but you said you hadn't done enough, and so I'm so glad we finally got to do it now, because we see wrestling from extreme opposite ends.
Yeah.
You're one of, if not my favorite person to talk to wrestling about, because generally when people see wrestling as opposite as we do, they argue and they don't get along. We've never had that. We've had, I don't say heated discussions, but we're very passionate about the way we see it.
Yep.
And we can always like see the other person's point of view. Like, am I wrong in
No,
saying that right?
you've helped me
Like,
to appreciate things that I didn't otherwise appreciate about people that I never thought I would too.
Yeah, I remember specific. I won't talk about it here, but I remember a very specific conversation, and we can always have a normal conversation about the things we see completely different, and that's hard to do with most people. Most people that I don't see wrestling with, and I'm always going into it with an open mind. I can wrestling's like Baskin Robbins. There's something for everyone, but most people will. I've had people send, because I don't watch a lot of indies. I watch, but I do watch some. But I'm a WWE guy. I've always been a WWE guy. I'll always be a WWE guy. I've had people on the internet send me angry messages saying that, oh, you're stupid for not watching this New Japan match, or you're dumb for watching WWE. WWE sucks. You should be watching this or that. I'm like, that's amazing that you love that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found a product that you enjoy.
Yes.
That's amazing. But I'm dumb because I liked Dolph Ziggler or whatever, right? It's just what I grew up on, and it's great that you love Ring of Honor or you love New Japan or what it is that you love.
Also love WWE.
I don't have to. Like, and I'm not going to shit on those things because you don't like, or because you like it and I don't.
Yes.
I love WWE. I went to SummerSlam for 7 or 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
I would not have gone to New Japan. Well, that's wrong, but I would love to go to New Japan show. But I wouldn't go to Wrestle Kingdom 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like, that's my thing. But I've had that. My point is that we don't have that interaction. We can still get along. We can still talk wrestling, even though we like different things.
Mutual respect is a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
And when I come into things with a person who I respect you and your opinion and you as an individual, there's never a moment where, no matter what your opinion is, I know that it's not angry or violent or spit-filled or like you're not a spiteful person. You're not saying an opinion to try to organize other people. You're just
fuck Covey.
Yeah, here's my opinion, and I like it. Heated was the best word. Passion.
Yeah.
You are driven in your opinion.
Yeah.
Because of how you're fervent.
Yeah.
You know what you enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I'm the exact same polar opposite in what I enjoy. Just fervent in that. Yeah. And I love New Breed Wrestling was my favorite debate of ours.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
And the one that I went home and watched probably 30 hours of matches of the person that we debated, and I was like, he's right. It sucks. I was wrong. Yeah. And those are words that never come out of my mouth.
Yeah. I mean, it's so nice to be able to talk to someone who has a different opinion, because absolutely love. I post a whole bunch of crap on Facebook on my page about like, who's your favorite match? Who do you think should have won the world title? And some of them get like 50, 60, 70, 80s people's opinions, and I absolutely love hearing because they're always different than mine. Like, why do you think such and such should have been Intercontinental Champion?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite world champion? Like, I love hearing different people's opinions, because I'm like, so this person does have fans. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And I
Also
love that.
That there's a world of wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Like, as the nerdy kid that I was, hearing wrestling's gay constantly. Because wrestling was in a low point for a few years and nobody wanted to be around it.
Yeah.
To know that there are a large contingent of individuals who are intelligent
Yeah.
and have opinions
Yeah.
and are passionate about it, that's just cool. I love every one of those moments where I get to just, again, that backhand thing is I started that in Frisbee years ago. It was high fives and hugs is our statement for Frisbee.
Yeah.
You show up, you high five, and you hug.
Yeah.
Nobody's mad at each other.
Yeah.
One of my Frisbee moves is a backhand that I have a really powerful, like, full length of a football field backhand. Mm-hmm. And so after I'd score points, I'd be like, backhands, boys, backhands. The fact that thing is now 81 people on a post like 2 days ago posted backhands to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because of the power of wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's an art form that I can't imagine being here.
I maybe had one or two wrestling fans as friends when I was in school. Maybe one or two.
Yep.
Now all of those people that used to say wrestling was dumb and stupid, when I see them outside, like we're still all friends on Facebook or whatever, they'll come up to me like, "So you're into that wrestling? Still into that wrestling thing? I went to this show. I saw people one time that used to make fun of me so bad when I was in like junior high or high school because of wrestling. I saw them sitting in the back row of a Wrestle Center show one time. I was like, I win."
I was at a bar in Cape Breton a year and a half ago having a beer with Sabotage, and one of the guys who, he beat the shit out of me in junior high, him and a group of guys, over me liking wrestling, came up to me and was like, "Hey, Covey, like, I saw one of your matches, like, online. I just want to tell you, it's fucking cool, man. Like, that's really cool that you're still doing that." And I was like, every fiber of my being wants to hate you right now, but you're 8. You just turned into an 8-year-old kid, and your little 8-year-old self just came out, and you just turned back into the kid you were before you thought wrestling was something you weren't allowed to like. So I'm not going to take that from you. Good job, man. Like,
and they'll come up and talk to me, and it's so amazing because it's completely come back around for them. You know,
they know they're allowed to now, which is weird. They came out of the closet. They jumped in.
Yeah, I liked it my entire life. I started watching it sometime around WrestleMania 3, and I just never stopped, never grew out of it. A lot of people stopped watching it. It's great. Landon.
Yeah.
He was the biggest wrestling fan ever.
Yep.
And he doesn't come around anymore. It's sad. Maybe it'll come back around for him.
It will.
But he was so passionate, so lovely. He was such a big help, backstage, and then I just saw a post. He's like, "Nah, I'm just not into it anymore." I'm like, "You used to fly to Ontario for shows, man."
Landon's the reason. Twofold on that one. Landon is the reason that after my first match with Rodney, I felt confident enough to come back.
Yeah, he told you that you were the only professional wrestler there or something?
He messaged me and he was like, I don't know where you trained at, but you're a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
All I did was throw punches in that match. And you threw real punches. You took bumps like a wrestler. You made Rodney look like he was a wrestler. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, bud." He was like, "You coming back again?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Okay, I'll be back at the next show then."
Yeah.
That motivated the hell out of me. Yeah. 2, I know, this is a scathing comment against all of wrestling, I guess, which is a lot of people and promoters will use people for all they can, and those people lose their passion because they're being bent over a barrel.
Yeah.
And Landon was a kid.
He was like 15 or something?
Yeah, and a lot of people expected a lot out of him, and he wasn't being paid for the efforts that he was putting forward. He wasn't being offset in any way, and that's going to get grinding in some way when you're a kid looking up to people who suddenly that you're around them, they aren't so honorable to be looked up to.
Right.
And so I heard some sadder stories from him.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I've seen it happen with some people, and it's ridiculous.
Again, there's a reason that for 2 years here in Halifax, I show up at the ring for free. I will never charge somebody for being there. I will never charge for a seminar. I will never charge for a show up. I really love wrestling and I love being around people who love it. So I'll always be there.
I meant to bring this up earlier. Yeah. You are, there's generally, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 people there early in the afternoons, every show, setting the ring up, whatever. You and Cody, Cody Blade, are the only two people I ever see in the ring going over moves. You guys are in that ring for a couple of hours before every show, and you're the only two people ever in there trying stuff, learning stuff, and I'm standing there seeing everybody else just stand there, and I'm sure if one of them asks, can I get in there and try this with you, or can we work
100%.
over something, you wouldn't say no, but you and Cody are the only two people I ever see in the ring, and it's before every show both of you are at, and if you're not there, Cody's in the ring, and I'm sure if Cody's not there, you're still in the ring doing something.
It's
Do you wish those other guys would get him too?
Yes. I think it's what separates. Cody and I are addicts of wrestling. There's a reason that, again, we'll be in the ring 3 days in a row together. The ring's finally open again and we can get in there, and every day I'll hear from him. We going? When the ring was walking distance, we spent 6 days a week in that ring together. And I don't get paid for that. There's no offset to that.
He's so excited and so motivated.
He's a great puppy dog. I'm hopefully going to be a trainer in the Maritime sooner rather than later. That is my
That was the other question.
that is my main goal.
Do you, based on that, do you like wrestling trainers? Do you think you have enough experience and knowledge to be a trainer? You help train a lot of people now, and I've seen you train a lot of people, and you do a magnificent job. But do you think you should be doing it at this point in time in your career?
Yes.
Yes? Why is that? Because I've always explained that a trainer needs to have like so much world experience or international, so many matches and blah blah blah. It's something like someone that's been around, has done. Someone like, I'll use the example locally, Mike, Pete, or Gary should be training people, not someone that's been around for 2 years.
The fact that I've been in a ring for 18, the fact that I am professionally trained by some of the best in all of North America, the fact that I am highly respected in my local region and will be internationally traveled only based on my own desire, not based on my limitations, says to me that I fit all of the criteria, and I did so in only 2 years of being a professional wrestler. I would never have thought of charging for that until this past year, where I co-trained 6 to 8 different people.
I've seen you train people. You do a great job.
Madison Miles called me one of her trainers at one point, and that was, again, to me, one of the greatest compliments that somebody could ever feed to me is somebody who has a trainer, who considers me an assistant trainer to them, that they got knowledge from me that helps their career. That motivates the hell out of me. Hearing from Cody Blade the other day in the ring, he's like, how's it feel to know that other people just wrestle for you? It's weird that I watch matches and I'm like, mine. I taught you that, that. I tell you that sequence. Oh, I can tell you this whole spot that's about to come up. He's going to do this, and this. And to me, that there is nothing that floats me more, ever, than sitting behind a curtain and my back doesn't hurt, and I'm wrestling in a match.
That show you where the agent. It was awesome seeing you do that.
Crying in the backstage watching people wrestle.
I've watched every class Gary Williams trained for like 3 years. I've seen a whole whack of Troy training people. I've seen Mike and Pete train people. I've seen Devin train people. You're like the next one where, of everybody that's around, I could definitely see you doing it, and I would definitely love to, because I love seeing different people train different people, because everyone does it differently. I would love to see you train people as well, like an entire, not just like one seminar, because I watched that seminar that you did a couple weeks ago or months ago, whenever that was, and that was incredible, because you do it differently, and I would love to see you do an entire 9-week 12-week class with the same people. I would love to see them day one and progress. That was the amazing thing about Gary's. I saw these people showing up, not being able to put one foot in front of the other, and then one of them could have showed up on TV by the end of the first class, or not first class, but first graduation thing.
And that's brilliant to be able to do. I love and like that seminar that you saw was a character seminar. I do like I said, me and Cody had a 20-minute argument with Split Like a Moonsault where I had to teach him what fulcrums were,
Yeah.
so that he understood how to fulcrum his body around a pivot point,
Yeah.
and had no idea what I was talking about. And I was like, well, we're just going to go through physics together, and I'll give you a physics lesson on how your body works. And he was like, why do you know that? And I was like, because I study kinesiology in my spare time.
Yeah.
I study physics when I'm bored. I'm obsessed with human motion. I can teach you anything. I just probably won't do it myself.
I remember, I think it was you, was teaching him how to do like a corkscrew from the top, like the spin thing. He was
Yep.
running up the rope. He was trying to like go from one rope to the next and
Yep.
like spin like a plancher or something. And you were showing you how to do that. He did it the first time, he did it the second time, and by the third time you were like, I can't remember what you said, but he was like, so this, I watched him move, and then he went up and he did it.
Yep. Cody Boggs, same thing.
Yeah.
I taught him as a shooting star.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm never going to be able to do it. And I was like, here's the things you're going to need. Here's your triggers. Here's your motions. Trust yourself and you'll do it.
Yeah.
And he landed it on his feet because
Yeah.
he's Bogger and he's insane. And he was like, oh my God, how do you know how to do that? And I was like, I don't know. I can't.
Yeah.
But I can physically tell you how it works.
Yeah.
I can tell you how to throw a perfect spiral with a football.
Yeah.
I can never throw one. Can't do it.
I want to see Cody do the ricochets thing out of the ring to the floor,
Oh,
where he jumps from the center, like he runs
So-
and jumps and lands on his feet on the ramp.
Cody Blade is working on a new thing recently, which you'll get to see him hopefully try out soon enough.
Yeah.
And it should break everyone's brain.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. Do you remember Mosquita Dorada from like
I don't think so.
94, 95?
Mexico?
He's a Mexican who worked against Super Crazy a bunch.
I probably have seen him. The name doesn't ring a bell. But
He wrestled on a 97 ECW tape that I bought at Walmart.
okay, I've definitely seen it then.
Yeah, and it's
Probably on.
he has like like little wings
Okay.
and like a weird nose to his mask.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to look like a little mosquito. And
I think I remember that.
he's incredible. He does a flip. He does the Jericho plancha, where
Okay.
you spring and you go over to
Yeah.
the outside, but he front flips
Okay.
and Super Crazy ducks. He lands on his back and flips to his feet
Oh, wow.
and just walks away going,
In 97, that's pretty huge.
amazing. He does a flip dive over the top rope to the outside.
Yeah.
Super Crazy drops and he does a lucha roll.
That's crazy.
So he taker dives,
Yeah.
and then at the last second, lucha rolls out of it.
Your poor shoulders.
I told Cody, and Cody was like, I'm doing it. I was like,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to do this interview. Like I said, it was one of the ones I've been looking forward to doing the most. I can't thank you enough. I so appreciate you taking this time out, spend with me, talking wrestling. Absolutely love it. And we'll have to do another one again.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, New Scott.